Hey friends, before we dive into tonight's story, did you know that nearly 80% of the people who watch these videos aren't subscribed? If you're enjoying this kind of content, consider hitting the subscribe button. It really helps a lot, and it keeps these long stories going. Also, I'd love to hear from you. What time is it right now where you are, and which city are you listening from tonight? And if these stories help you sleep, feel free to tap the thanks button to support the channel. It truly means a lot. All right, let's get into it. I pulled the cruiser up onto the cracked asphalt of Cedar Ridge Trailer Park and killed the engine. The overhead dome light swung once, then darkened, leaving me in the glare of the high-powered spotlight mounted on the roof. It was 0017 hours, and the stillness pressed in, only the distant hum of cicadas and the low whistle of wind through sagging awnings. Dispatch had tagged this as possible 1031, an unknown disturbance, after a frantic neighbor called in hearing blood-curdling screams from Unit 14. No one had answered follow-up calls. Backup ETA was 4 minutes, plenty of time to get in trouble. I stepped onto the gravel shoulder, boots crunching. The park lay 15 miles south of Pineville, Mississippi. Clay soil, battered mobile homes, front yards littered with broken chairs, and toddlers' toys bleached by the sun. Trailer 14 sat halfway down the row, faded teal siding, one shattered window boarded with plywood, the number barely legible beneath peeling paint. A child's swing set leaned crooked in the yard, chains rusted, seat tilting. A single porch light flickered, casting long shadows. I flicked on my radio mic. Unit 12 on scene, approaching Unit 14, no visual on complainant. My partner, Torres, crackled back. Copy that. I'm 3 mics east. Be there ASAP. I pocketed the mic, thumb grazing the taser at my belt. The front door of 14 was closed. I rapped on the frame. Mississippi Sheriff's Office. Anyone inside? You okay? Nothing. I tried the door handle, unlocked. The door swung inward on silent hinges. I stepped in, flashlight sweeping. Inside, the trailer was suffocatingly hot, thick with the smell of mildew and something fouler. Rotting food, damp carpet, stale sweat. The beam illuminated overturned furniture. A small table upended. Picture frames smashed on the floor. Magazines scattered like dead leaves. A curtain fluttered at the back window, though no breeze reached this far in. Hello? Sheriff's office? My voice sounded hollow. The beam landed on a dark stain on the linoleum, deep red, congealed. I crouched, careful not to touch it. Blood. It trailed toward the narrow hallway. My pulse sped. I stepped forward. The hallway light bulb overhead flickered and died. The trailer plunged into shadow. I clicked my torch higher. At the end of the hall, a door cracked open. Bathroom, I guessed. The smell was stronger there. I edged closer, heart hammering. Anyone in here? I pushed the door. The bathroom was wrecked. Mirror shattered, sink dented, towels shredded. On the floor, ankle-deep in shadow, lay a woman's sneaker, one shoe only. Next to it, smudged footprints in the blood led under the vanity. I radioed dispatch. Possible victim down. Suspect unknown. Send EMS. My words felt absurdly calm. I trained the light under the sink cabinet. Nothing but pipes and scattered toiletries. I rose and shined toward the shower. Curtain drawn, I yanked it back. Empty. A soft sound, a creak of floorboard, came from the master bedroom. I moved, weapon drawn. Every cop instinct screamed caution. I stepped into the doorway. The bed was unmade, sheets twisted. A cell phone lay on the floor, screen cracked, battery dead. I picked it up, no ring. I flipped it, locked. Probably smashed when someone panicked. Then I saw her. Lucy Harper, missing person bulletin flagged her 2 days ago, lay face down on the carpet, her blonde hair fanned in a dark pool. I knelt, shook her shoulder. "Lucy, sheriff's office." She groaned, lifted a hand. Her eyes opened, wide, terrified. Blood rimmed her lip. I lifted her gently. She whispered, "He's here." My radio erupted. "Unit 12, what's your status?" "Torres," I answered, voice tight. "Victim located, alive, hallway, sounds of movement." I paused. A soft thud from behind me. I spun, nothing. The beam caught the closet door swinging. I approached, heart in my throat, and flung it open. Empty clothes hangers. I half expected her kidnapper to lunge out. Instead, the air was stale. I stepped back. "Clear," I whispered, though I didn't believe it. Lucy leaned against me, sobbing. I eased her outside to the porch. Torres pulled up, blue lights strobed across the yard. I sat Lucy on the bottom step, wrapped her in a foil blanket. She clutched it like a lifeline. "We got her," I said into the mic. "EMS on approach. Send detective." I re-entered the trailer alone, flashlight sweeping. The back door stood ajar. I closed it, latched it. Then I saw it. A symbol scratched into the wooden frame. An X inside a circle, lines jagged, furious. Underneath, 3 letters, JTK. The grooves were fresh, splintered wood. I ran a finger along the scratch. It smelled of sap and something coppery. My stomach clenched. That symbol had shown up at 2 other recent disturbances in neighboring counties. Teen parties gone wrong, kids playing with spray paint. But this was carved in panic, rage. I snapped photos. Torres joined me. "You good?" she asked, nodding at the symbol. I pocketed the phone. "We need to canvass the park, now." We moved door to door under the flashing cruiser light, questioning neighbors. At Trailer 13, an older man, Reed, claimed he heard nothing over his TV. At 15, a teenager peeked through blinds, shook his head. No one wanted to talk. Fear, apathy, or complicity, it was hard to tell. Returning to 14, I checked the porch swing. Fresh, muddy footprints on the step. Bare footprints, small, child size. They led around the side toward the woods. I radioed Torres. "Footprints to the east. Let's go." We followed into the pines. The beam sliced through underbrush. The footprints ended at a hollow beneath a fallen oak. There, half buried in leaves, lay a small backpack. Pink, frayed. I knelt, unzipped it. A ragged teddy bear, a cracked smartphone with smashed screen, a folded drawing of a stick figure family, mother crossed out in red. My throat tightened. I slipped on gloves, bagged the items. Lucy's drawing, her backpack. They'd been dropped, intentionally or in flight. I peered into the dark grove. Branches scraped like fingernails. "Something else?" Torres whispered. I shook my head. "Let's get back. Detectives need this." At the station, Detective Marsh met us. He was lean, late 40s, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. I handed him the symbol photo and backpack. He frowned. "Circle X again, that makes 4. I nodded. "Victim says he's here. No ID on suspect." Marsh tapped the drawing. The mother crossed out. Lucy's kid mind tried to explain something. "We need forensic on that scratch. See if we get prints, and trace the phone SIM." I felt the weight of the night settling in my bones. This wasn't a simple domestic. Something more twisted was happening. Before I left, I checked the camcorder Torres had set up in 14's living room. On playback, at 00245, you hear Lucy whimper, "Please." Then a heavy breath, then footsteps. At 00252, a shape darts past the window, too fast to make out. then static. I paused the footage. That silhouette, I'd swear it wasn't human. The shoulders too broad, the movement too jerky. I rubbed my eyes, probably fatigue. But as I walked out into the humid dawn, I glanced back at the trailer park sign, peeling letters, rusted posts, and felt certain of one thing. Whatever had happened here wasn't over. I climbed into the cruiser. The engine's growl seemed loud in the still air. I flicked on the dome light and opened my notebook. Under Next Steps, I wrote, Forensic Analysis, Symbol Footprints Backpack. Canvas again at first light. Interview Lucy when she's coherent. Check missing person reports for JTK initials. I paused. What if JTK wasn't initials, but a message, a warning? The wind rustled through the trees. I picked up the radio. Unit 12 to dispatch, requesting crime scene log and 48-hour missing person cross-check. And advise everyone to stay clear of the woods east of Unit 14. No sooner had I spoken than the passenger side door creaked. I spun, empty. My flashlight lay on the seat, beam pointing at the roof. I clicked it off, heart pounding. I drove away, but the image stayed. That dark shape at the window, the scratched symbol bleeding into my mind. Tonight, I'd be back. Because in trailer parks like Cedar Ridge, secrets don't stay buried, and neither do the things that lurk in the shadows. And I intend to find out what "he's here" really means. As the cruiser's taillights vanished down the lane, the moon slipped behind clouds, and the park settled once more into silence, waiting. The night air was thick when I returned to Cedar Ridge. I parked 2 trailers down from Unit 14, close enough to keep an eye on the broken window, the battered door frame, the rusty swing still drifting in the breeze. Moonlight slanted through the pines, illuminating the gravel and weeds. I killed the engine and sat for a moment listening. The only sound was the hum of my idling cruiser and distant cicadas. Dispatch had cleared the scene but left a patrol unit on standby in case Lucy Harper woke with new information. I checked my watch. 1:12. Torres had gone back to the station with the evidence bag. Marsh was inside interviewing Lucy's uncle, who'd driven her to Mercy Hospital. I was alone out here, exactly how I liked it when I needed to think. I stepped out, boots on gravel, and approached Unit 14's porch. The symbol, circle with an X and JTK, glistened under my flashlight. I crouched, ran a gloved finger along the scratch. Something about the depth of those grooves told me it wasn't a kid's prank. Someone carved it with purpose. A twig snapped behind me. I spun, hand on my taser. A raccoon fled from under the adjacent trailer. I exhaled. Trailer parks attract wildlife. Another normal detail, but on a night like this, every normal detail feels like a threat. I holstered the taser and moved to the side yard. The muddy footprints led into the woods. Bare prints, kid-size, stopping at the tree line. I flicked on the spotlight and followed. The woods were shallow, just enough pines and scrub to hide someone. I scanned each trunk for that symbol but saw only bark and shadows. 30 feet in, I found something else. Flattened grass, as if someone knelt there. I bent, scanned the ground, a scrap of fabric. A pink ribbon, frayed. I bagged it. A child's hair ribbon. Lucy's, or planted? Beyond, I saw the hollow under the fallen oak. I approached slowly. The forest floor sloped into a shallow pit. Leaves lay undisturbed except for my footprints. I knelt by the pit's edge. Nothing but dirt and dead leaves. No sign of struggle. But the air here felt colder, heavier, like exhaling into a freezer. "Hello?" I whispered. My breath puffed. No answer. I tapped my radio. Unit 12, investigating hollow east of Unit 14. Negative findings so far. Static. No reply. I frowned. The woods were cutting me off. I clipped the mic open again. "Dispatch," a voice crackled. "Go ahead." I nodded. "Backup still en route?" "Two mics out." I pocketed the radio and shined the beam around. The trees stretched like silent sentinels. I had a sudden urge to leave, but duty held me. I stood, turned back toward the trailers, and froze. There, carved into the oak's bark above the hollow, was the X-circle symbol again, fresh, bright wood beneath. And under it, not JTK, but a new set of letters, LH. My pulse skyrocketed. LH, Lucy Harper. Someone carved her initials here after she vanished under that sofa. It was a signature, a claim. Footsteps crunching behind me made me whirl. Torres stepped into the beam. "You see that?" I pointed. She frowned. "Someone's playing games." I swallowed. "We're sending a message." We headed back. On the way, I closed my eyes for a second and thought I saw a figure slip between trees, tall, gaunt, shoulders hunched. When I opened my eyes, it was gone. Back at the trailer, I found Detective Marsh examining the symbol on the door frame. He looked up. "You got something else?" I showed him the carving. He touched it gingerly. "We need to log this. Twice now the symbol's shown in two distinct places. Whoever did this wants us to follow." I nodded. "And I intend to." Inside the trailer, the stale heat pressed in. I reviewed the body cam footage again. Lucy's whimper, the flash of white as she crawled from under the sofa, the blur at the window, then static. I paused the clip where the window's edge caught the beam. A silhouette, tall, thin, with angular shoulders. Not human? I shook my head, number two weird. But the shape's proportions were off. I ran the footage frame by frame. The figure didn't blink. It watched. Marsh interrupted my thoughts. "We've got Lucy's uncle on the stand next. Let's see what he broke off, studying the sofa's carpet. A dark smudge under the edge. He knelt, shined his light. "Blood?" I crouched. It was dark. Older than the blotch at the front door. Dried, brownish. A partial footprint pressed into the carpet. Smaller than Lucy's, but not adult-sized. We bagged it. "Kid suspect?" Marsh murmured. I frowned. Or someone wanting us to think a child. He stood. "Let's pull unit files. Any other missing kids around here?" I walked outside. The trailer park was silent under the moon. I looked toward the woods. That figure could be watching even now. I tapped my radio. "Unit 12, request perimeter check. Have units sweep woods and trailers for signs of entry." No answer. My radio hissed static. I clicked again. Dead. I stepped back. Every cop's nightmare. Comms down in an active scene. I drew my phone. No signal. Of course not. Cedar Ridge was a black hole. I turned. The symbol on the trailer door gleamed in the porch light. Circle and X. I touched it. The wood was warm, as if someone had just carved it. Behind me, the hush thickened. I felt breath on my neck. I spun, but again, nothing, only the whisper of wind. I realized the woods weren't empty. Something moved just beyond sight, watching, waiting. I tapped my shoulder. Torres's voice. "We need to get out of here until comms come back." I swallowed. One more look. She shook her head. Not alone. We backed away, leaving the trailer door shut. As we reached the cruiser, the boards over the window rattled once. I froze. Torres glanced up. "What now?" I swallowed. "We come back with more firepower." She nodded. "And maybe a camera crew." I climbed into the driver's seat. The engine roared. I glanced at the darkened park. The symbol on the tree, the footprints, the whisper of movement in the woods, none made sense. But they were real. Dispatch came back. Unit 12. Comms restored. Status? I clicked the mic. We're staging off-site. Send K9 and CSI and detective team. Copy that. As the cruiser pulled away, I looked back once more. The broken window of Unit 14 glowed faintly. The woods beyond loomed, and in my mind I heard Lucy's voice. He's here. Who is he? And what happened before she crawled out? I didn't have answers yet, but I would, because some secrets hide in the shadows, waiting for someone brave enough to chase them. Tonight, I'd planned to solve a 911 call. Instead, I found a puzzle and something else, something that didn't belong in any police manual. I flicked on the siren for a second, then shut it off. Cedar Ridge faded behind us, but I'll be back. Because he's here, and I need to know why. The sky was paling when we pulled back onto Highway 49, leaving Cedar Ridge's flickering trailer lights behind. I sat in the cruiser, chest tight, replaying every detail, the carved symbol, the footprints, the hollow in the woods, comms dropping. Torres kept glancing at me, waiting for instructions. I keyed the mic. Dispatch, Unit 12. We're staging off-site at mile marker 12 until K9 and CSI arrive. The dispatcher crackled acknowledgement. I turned to Torres. We're not done. Tonight we bring the team back in. Uniform patrol. K9, crime scene, detectives. We push through that tree line with backup. She nodded, eyes hard. Good. I hate going into those woods alone. We met Marsh and the CSI tech at the edge of the lot. The K9 unit arrived last. Handlers, German shepherds straining at the leash, sniffing the air. We briefed them fast. Lucy's abduction scene, symbol carvings at 2 points, footprints hollow. The dog barked once, eager. Torres and I led the way down the gravel lane to Unit 14 as the CSI van unfolded gear. The trailer looked different under full squad lights. Harsh white beams crisscrossing the siding, revealing every dent and scratch. The symbol on the doorframe gleamed like a warning. Marsh touched it with a swab. Get this to lab. See if any skin cells remain. The dog handler released his dog at the back door. The shepherd slipped inside, nose to the ground, tail high. I followed, badge up, hand on taser. The interior felt colder now, as if the trailer itself exhaled. The dog moved methodically. Kitchen, hallway, bathroom. At the bathroom threshold it froze, hackles raised, then darted under the vanity. Here, the handler said. He knelt, shining a light under the sink. A fragment of fabric lay beside the drain pipe. Pink ribbon, identical to the one we bagged outside. The dog whined, looked up. Handler clipped it. Scent picking up from the hollow, we got a trail. Marsh radioed CSI to bag the ribbon. I turned toward the hallway. The dog trotted past, nosing the floor. At the bedroom door it paused, then bolted outside. I rushed after it. The dog raced across the porch and bounded into the woods, handler at heel. Go slow, I called. We fanned out. The woods were black except for our torches. The dog led us to the hollow beneath the fallen oak. It sniffed around, then sat, barking once. I knelt. Fresh footprints in the soft earth, bare, small. The dog sniffed one and then bolted deeper, toward a stand of younger pines. I hesitated. The ground sloped down into a shallow ditch. The dog slipped in. We followed. There, half hidden under branches, was a battered metal box, old ammunition crate, rusted shut. The handler pried it open. Inside, wrapped in plastic, lay a child's jacket, mud-caked, blood-spattered, and a stuffed rabbit missing an eye. My stomach turned. I snapped photos. Marsh murmured, "Evidence of abduction." We call this homicide. Potential. I closed my eyes. Lucy's drawing, the stick figure Mother crossed out in red, made sense now. Someone had taken her here, beneath the trees, carved her name and JTK into the world, then left. I keyed my mic. Unit 12. We have a box with personal effects. Sent homicide and forensics. Back at the trailer, the CSI tech dusted for prints on the doorframe symbol. Marsh interviewed Torres and me for our statements. I forced my mind back to procedure. Log everything, bag everything, preserve the scene. But inside, I felt fury and fear. Someone preyed on children here, someone who knew how to taunt us. By 4:30, the scene was sealed. The dog's alert had given us the box. Inside, Lucy's rabbit. Her mother had gifted it the day she disappeared. Marsh called it a break. I called it horrifying confirmation. We left Cedar Ridge in the hands of uniformed guards. As we drove out, I stared at the dark woods. The trees closed behind us like a shutter. I thought, we only scratched the surface. Back at headquarters, I paced the bullpen. Detective Marsh spread evidence on a table. The ribbon, the jacket, the rabbit, photos of the symbol, footprints, and the box. Lab results were pending. Whoever did this, Marsh said, staged the initial scene under the trailer to lure us in, then baited us with the symbol at the tree to follow here. I nodded. This is a pattern. I want files on other symbol sightings, and any missing person cases with similar M.O., child taken, personal item left behind. He tapped his pen. JTK could be initials or code. Check school records, juvenile offenders, even local gangs. Could be a tag. I frowned. Also, look into metaphoric uses. Circle X shows up in some cult graffiti, urban exploration tags. But this is personal. Marsh agreed. Get Lucy's statement when she's coherent. See if she remembers anything about that symbol. I sank into a chair. My uniform felt stiff. I rubbed my temples. Hours of adrenaline left me shaky. Torres slid into the seat across from me, coffee in hand. You okay? I sipped black coffee. As okay as you can be when a kid's life is on the line. She nodded. Lucy's stable. She's awake, but confused. They gave her pain meds and sugar. I exhaled. Good. Tomorrow we interview her. For now, I need to sleep. Torres glanced at the clock. 5:15. Try. I stepped into the locker room. The walls were cinder block, fluorescent lights humming. I hung my jacket, loosened my tie. Even here I felt watched. The symbol lingered behind my eyes. I showered, dressed in civilian clothes, and drove home. At my apartment, I collapsed on the couch. My phone buzzed, text from Marsh. Lab confirms the scratch on door is human skin cells. Partial print on rabbit. DNA sent my chest tightened. I typed back, understood. I'll be ready. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The final twist of part 1 and 2 replayed. The figure at the window, the camera static, comms dying, the symbol carving itself fresh before my eyes. None of it made sense, and that was the point. Someone was orchestrating fear. I thought of Lucy's voice. He's here. Who was he? A local predator, a twisted loner living off-grid, or something else? My rational mind fought the creeping dread that maybe this went beyond one man. But I was a cop. I needed facts. Dawn light crept through blinds. I finally slept. An hour, 2. My alarm jarred me awake. I dressed, grabbed breakfast, and headed back to the station. Today, we would question Lucy. We would comb through every scrap of evidence. We would chase down JTK and the new initials LH. But tonight, when I return to Cedar Ridge, I'll do more than search for symbols. I'll listen for voices in the dark. I'll watch for silhouettes at the tree line. I'll bring lights, cameras, every tool we have. Because he's here, and I intend to find him before he strikes again. As I stepped into the morning briefing, I realized This case has me. And I won't rest until I know who carved those symbols, who left Lucy under that sofa, and what the Circle X really means. I slide into the driver's seat and kill the engine. The lot is silent, washed in pale moonlight, and the thin drone of cicadas. My flashlight beam dances over the chipped paint of Unit 14 skirting. I check my watch, 10 p.m. Nearly 12 hours since Lucy Harper crawled out from under that sofa. 12 hours since the first symbol appeared. 12 hours since everything changed. Torres hustles beside me, coffee in hand, eyes sharp. Behind us, the K9 and CSI have packed up. Marsh is reviewing lab reports with the tech. We agreed. We'll push deeper tonight. No half measures. If he's here, we'll find him. I step onto the gravel and feel it crunch under my boots. The trailer's porch light flickers. I approach the door, hand on the frame. The Circle X glares back, now weathered, but still raw. I trace a fingertip over the grooves. The lab text message on my phone buzzes. Skin cells matched to unknown profile. No database hit. Great, an unknown predator. I nod to Torres. Let's go. We enter together. The air inside is stale, colder than before, as if the trailer itself remembered violence. I sweep my flashlight left to right. Overturned chair, dried blood trail, Lucy's sneaker gone. Someone removed it. I crouch where the sneaker lay. Footprints in the dust. Small, erratic, circling. I bag a print cast. Torres moves to the hallway. She shines into the bathroom. The vanity ribbon is gone. The pink ribbon we found in the woods has vanished. Whoever staged the ribbon outside has cleaned inside. I grip my taser. He's been back. She exhales. Wants us to chase ghosts. We head outside to the side yard. The woods loom. I glance at the hollow site, now marked by crime scene flags. The canine handler said the dog lost the scent near the pit. The predator knows these woods well. I lift my radio. Unit 12, portable lights and thermal cam on the way. Copy, ETA 5. I nod. 5 minutes to plan. I crouch by the tree with LH scratched above the hollow. I shine up at the carving. Fresh wood gleams. I bag a wood shaving. Torres joins me. We split? I shake my head. Together. We circle east, then meet back here. She draws her taser. Lead the way. We step into the trees. The thermal camera's glow will light the path soon, but for now, we rely on torches. Underbrush scrapes my pants. Branches overhead whisper. I remember Lucy's words. He's here. Not they. 1. 50 feet in, the flashlights pick up heat signatures. Raccoon, possum, then nothing. 2 still, my gut tightens. I signal Torres to halt. She freezes. I point. Ahead, a dark shape crouched by a tree. No heat signature. I swallow. There. She trains her beam, empty. I advance, heart pounding. The shape resolves into a knothole. My flashlight catches a scrap of cloth wedged there, pink. I reach up, pull it free. It's Lucy's jacket lining. My radio crackles. Thermal cam online. A drone of rotors. A small quadcopter hovers above, camera lens swiveling. Its monitor shows grainy heat, trees, ground, and a static cold spot under the oak hollow. Suddenly, the cold spot shifts, slides 15 feet east. I frown. The camera tracks it. A dark blur moving between trunks. No heat. I point to the monitor. There, did you see? Marsh's voice. Unidentified. Could be camera artifact. I shake my head. Or him. The cold blur retreats deeper. The drone loses signal. The screen flickers. Then it picks up a shape at the trailer's back door. A tall silhouette, shoulders hunched. It stands motionless. My blood runs cold. I spin toward Unit 14. The back door stands open just a crack. No wind. Someone's there, I whisper. Torres raises her Glock. We move in tandem, silent. I push the door with my shoulder. It creaks. Inside, darkness. I sweep the beam. Kitchen, hallway, bathroom, empty. Then I see footprints in the dust leading under the bed. I crouch, eye to the gap, nothing. I reach under with my flashlight, only floor. I grab the frame, lift myself, peer up. The bedroom window is open, the screen torn. Someone slipped out. I step back, the trailer exhales. The only witness, the flickering porch light. I radio in. Unit 12, suspect has fled through trailer. Request perimeter lockdown. Copy. Units en route. We exit, closing the door. I pause, hand on the handle. I feel watched. I swing around, empty yard. But the woods seem to lean in. I turn back to the trailer. On the doorframe, a new carving, a single word, run. My heart pounds. Someone wants me to run. Torres reads it over my shoulder. Hell no. I nod. We're not done. We withdraw to the cruiser as marked units fan out. I watch the trailer through binoculars. The word run glares. I type notes, time logged, carving documented, dozen photos. All evidence of a predator's game. An hour later, perimeter secure, suspect not found. K9 lost the scent at the tree line. CSI processed the new carving, too fresh for prints. We regroup. Marsh studies the evidence board, symbols, timelines, locations. He draws a line connecting JTK, LH, and now run. 3 points, 3 messages, he mutters. What's next? I tap my pen. We anticipate. Check local cameras. Any road cameras east of the woods. Someone moved Lucy's sneaker. Someone carved run. They'll slip up. Torres rubs her eyes. I need sleep. I lay a hand on her shoulder. Grab a nap. I'll alert you when we have feed. She nods and heads for the cruiser. I remain, staring at the trailer. The flickering light makes the symbol dance. I whisper into the night, I'm not running. I'm coming for you. And I mean it. As I finally climb into the cruiser, I realize this predator thinks he's orchestrating fear. But he's met his match. In Cedar Ridge's shadows, a cop hunts. Tonight's score. Evidence collected. Suspect's trail traced. But the game continues. The next move is his. And I'll be ready. The forest seemed to hold its breath as I stepped from the cruiser's spotlight into the hollow's mouth. The collapsed oak lay to my left, its roots gnarled like arthritic fingers. Underfoot, the fallen leaves muffled my boots, each step an intrusion into ancient silence. Torres followed, flashlight beam bobbing, eyes darting. Behind us, the perimeter lights at the trailer park winked in the distance. Thermal feed still shows that cold spot, I murmured, raising the drone monitor. A bluish void tracked deeper into the timber. It moved east again, about 50 feet. Torres frowned. Why no heat signature? Flesh and blood should register. I shook my head. No idea, but it's our only lead. I clipped my taser and drew my sidearm. Let's close in. We advanced shoulder to shoulder. The trees thinned, giving way to charcoal shadows and the hollow's rim. The air was chillier here, an unnatural cold that seeped through coat and skin. I glanced down, bare footprints, smaller than Lucy's, pressed into the damp earth. They led past the crate site, turned south. I crouched, touched the edge of a print, mud and something sticky, dried sap or blood. I bagged a sample. Here, I whispered. Torres trained her light on a narrow game trail sloping downward. The blur on thermal had slipped here. We descended into a shallow gully. The beam caught a piece of fabric snagged on a briar, dark denim, torn. I recognized the pattern. Part of a deputy's uniform pant. Stitching along the side, but not mine or Torres's, someone else wore a uniform. My pulse spiked. Copy that, I said into my radio. Possible suspect uniform fragment at grid Bravo 3. Send for CSI. No reply. Comms still spotty. I jammed the mic. Marsh, anybody near Bravo 3? Static, then Marsh's voice. Hold on, coaxing channel. Bravo 3. Affirmative. We have someone en route. Good. I slid the fragment into an evidence bag. The scent on it was faintly metallic. Torres snapped photos. Let's keep moving, I said. We pushed on, the gully curving toward a stand of younger pines. The hush was absolute until a soft click, like a branch snapping under weight, echoed. We froze. Did you hear that? Torres whispered. I nodded. We swept our lights toward the sound. There, between two trunks, a shape, slender, angular, crouched low. It held something long and thin, glinting. A pry bar? A carving tool? I raised my voice. Police, show yourself! The figure froze, then bolted, faster than any human I've chased. It slipped through the trees, weaving between trunks, vanishing into darkness. After it, I shouted, and we ran, crashing through underbrush. My boot caught a root. I stumbled but kept going. Torres pumped beside me, steady and sure. Branches whipped our faces. The blur stayed ahead, impossibly swift. We chased until the woods opened onto a clearing, a rusted service road running behind the trailer park. The blur paused at the road's edge, backlit by distant sodium lamps. I skidded to a stop 20 feet away. The shape stood upright. Tall, too long-limbed, shoulders peaked. It lifted its head, tilted back, then vanished into the night. No footsteps in the gravel, no sign of passage. Just the echo of our breathing and the drone's hum overhead. I kicked at the dirt. This makes no sense. Torres scanned the tree line. We lost it, I radioed Marsh. Suspect sighting at Bravo 3 clearing. No sign now, evidence collected. Uniform fragment, prints. Copy, pull back to perimeter, came the reply. We retreated, hearts hammering. The trailer park lights flickered as we emerged. I paused at the hollow's rim, looking back into the gully. The dark seemed to pulse, as if alive. Something's wrong with this place, Torres said softly. I swallowed. Yeah, feels watched. Back at the command post, Marsh greeted us with a grim expression. He spread the denim fragment on the table next to the rabbit and jacket. Uniform fragments from a Meridian County deputy jacket, he said. But no assigned officers missing one. I frowned. So either someone stole it, or someone set us up, wearing a uniform to lure us deeper. Marsh nodded. And the prints from the rabbit match the ones we lifted from the trailer floor, child-sized, but not Lucy's. Someone small helped or was forced to help. My head ached. Or they want us to think a child. He tapped the board. 3 symbols, 3 locations. Door frame, tree, now gully. Each leads deeper. It's like breadcrumbs. I pointed at the map. Next breadcrumb? He traced a line east, an abandoned pump house by the creek. This spot, it's on county maps but long disused. I felt a chill. We go at first light? Marsh shrugged. Or now, while it's fresh. I looked at Torres, dark circles under her eyes, but determination in her stance. We go now. We geared up and piled into an unmarked SUV. The K-9 stayed behind to rest. Detective team of 4, 2 patrol, 1 CSI tech. I rode shotgun, heart drumming. The road to the pump house was overgrown. Tire tracks half covered by leaves. I shone my light through the windshield. Rusted roof. Broken windows. Door hanging. Off hinges. I killed the engine. We slipped out, weapons drawn. The air smelled of damp wood and oil. I stepped onto the sagging porch. Each board groaned. I signaled Torres to cover the windows. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. I eased it open. Inside, the beam revealed a concrete floor slick with moss, walls scrawled in that jagged symbol, circle X, over and over, layered, chaotic. Underneath, someone had written words in charcoal. "You're too late." My stomach dropped. I snapped photos. Torres moved in, shining on the floor, footprints, adult and child, leading to a corner where a pile of debris lay. Among it, a battered dollhouse, its windows smashed, interior walls marked with more X circles. I swallowed. They built a lair. Marsh's voice. "Watch your step." He pointed to a trapdoor in the floorboards, half hidden under debris. A metal ring lay beside it. My breath caught. Lifted. 2 officers pried. The hatch creaked open, revealing a ladder into darkness. A stale draft rose. A whisper of movement below. I checked my flashlight and descended. Each rung felt like entering a tomb. At the bottom, the beam illuminated a low chamber. Stone walls slick with moisture. A dirt floor. In the center, arranged in a rough circle, lay 3 items. Lucy's sneaker, the pink ribbon, and the stuffed rabbit. Each placed atop a flat stone as if altarpieces. My heart thundered. Someone had been here, ceremonial. Torres joined me, gasping. "This is wrong." I scanned the walls, the symbol carved deeper here, dozens of times, overlapping, as if someone hammered it in frenzy. In one corner, scratch marks on the stone. Too many to count. I stepped forward, and the beam caught a shape huddled in the far shadow, a small form. Lucy? No, too slight. The silhouette rose slowly. I aimed my taser. "Show yourself." The figure stepped into the light. A child, maybe 8, eyes wide, face smudged. She wore a deputy's jacket, one sleeve missing. The rabbit's eye dangled from her hand. I lowered the taser. "It's okay, we're the police." She stared, whispered, "He said to wait." My blood ran cold. "Who?" She pointed up the ladder. "He's coming." Behind me, the hatch slammed. I spun, the ladder gone, replaced by solid boards. Torres rushed to the spot. "It's sealed." I radioed frantically. "Marsh, get me that hatch open now." Marsh's voice crackled. "On it. Give me a minute." I knelt beside the girl. "What's your name?" She whispered. "Molly. He says he'll come for me next." My gut twisted. "Who's coming, Molly?" "Where's he?" She pointed at the symbol on the wall. "He lives in the marks." I froze. The air vibrated. A soft scraping sounded behind us. I drew my weapon. "Stay behind me." From the darkness beyond the circle, something moved. A curve of metal, a flash of bone. The girl whimpered. The hatch above groaned as Marsh and the tech pried it loose. Light spilled in. I shone my torch toward the far corner. Nothing. Then the beam passed over a shape gone slack. A long, dark coat draped on the floor. No body, no boots, just the coat. I radioed, "Get her out." Now. Torres scooped Molly and climbed the ladder. I followed, leaving the chamber behind. As the hatch closed, I looked back at the dark opening. The scrawled symbol seemed to pulse in the torchlight. Outside, Marsh helped the girl to safety. I stepped away, heart racing. The abandoned pump house stood silent, hiding its secrets. I realized we'd found the lair, but not the predator. He'd slipped away, deeper into the woods, or perhaps into legend. I touched the symbol carved on the hatch, cold stone. I whispered, "I'll find you." Above us, the trailer park lights flickered on the dawn horizon. The next chapter awaited, but first, answers from Molly, lab results, and a decision. How far would we descend into that darkness? I step out into the pale light of dawn, the sky a bruised purple along the eastern tree line. The stale odor of damp earth and moss clings to my gear. Behind me, the abandoned pump house stands silent, its secret sealed once more. At least for now. Around us, deputies guide Molly to the cruiser. She huddles under a foil blanket, eyes wide, clutching the single-eyed rabbit. I watch her go, then turn back to Detective Marsh and Torres. We share a look heavy with exhaustion and disbelief. 5 parts. 5 chapters peeled back the skin of Cedar Ridge Trailer Park's nightmare. Now comes the final descent. Part 6. We move as a team. 2 uniformed patrol officers relight the perimeter lamps. A CSI tech snaps photos of the pump house exterior. Marsh kneels by the trap door, prying again at the hatch. I stand guard, weapon drawn, ears straining for any sound beyond the slow hum of generators. Below, in that subterranean chamber, the X circle pulsed in our flashlights. A carved heartbeat on stone. The Lairs altar held the ritual pieces. Lucy's sneaker, the pink ribbon, the rabbit. Now they sit in evidence lockers, cataloged, labeled, but the meaning remains. Marsh lifts the hatch. I descend first. The ladder's rungs are slick with moisture. Each footfall echoes. The circle of stones lies cold. The walls are scrawled with frantic symbols, overlapping X circles, words half erased, shapes that itch at the mind. I sweep the beam across the floor. The stones are empty. Molly is gone. Her jacket, rabbit, sneaker removed. Fresh footprints, adult, led into a dark corner where the scratch marks gouge the stone. My stomach lurches. Torres joins me, light on her face. She was just here, I whisper. We lost her, Torres says. I nod, and he, whoever he is, knew we'd come. I follow the prints to the corner. There, behind a pile of rubble, a narrow tunnel yawns, a crawl space dug into earth and roots. It slopes downward, disappearing into black. Marsh's voice crackles in my earpiece. You sure you want to go in? I glance up. The hatch overhead frames a pale circle of sky. I think of Lucy's scream, Molly's whisper, the silhouette at the trailer window. I think of the symbol carved into every surface, calling me deeper. I nod. I've come this far. Torres crouches beside me. We do this together. I switch to my secondary light, clip the primary to my belt, and enter the tunnel. It's narrow, just wide enough for one. I squeeze through, dirt crumbly under my palms. The air is colder here, breath visible as mist. Roots hang like veins. I reach the end and emerge into a larger cavern. Natural stone, dripping water, the smell of fungus. The chamber is lit by a single bulb dangling from a cable, powered by a battered generator. Against the far wall stands a figure. Tall, coat long and dark, head bowed. The bulb casts its shadow enormous across the opposite wall. My heart pounds. Show yourself, I call. The figure raises its head. Face gaunt, eyes black hollows. The coat falls open. Beneath, a deputy's uniform, Molly's jacket sleeve stitched crudely onto the chest. The symbol, circle X, is branded into the flesh of its forearm, scarred and raw. I freeze. This is no human predator. The thing's skin is pale as ash, its movements too smooth, too deliberate. It tilts its head, as if curious. Torres's voice behind me trembles. What the... The figure steps forward. Each footfall is silent. It lifts one hand, points at me. Then, at the wall behind me, where new scratch marks appear, fresh carvings, my badge number, my name. Beneath, a question. Why? My blood runs cold. It knows me. It chose me. I swallow, voice shaking. What? What do you want? The thing's lips part in a slow, impossible smile. It tilts its head again, then whispers, in my mind, not ears, a voice like wind through dead leaves. To be seen. My taser feels useless. My revolver seems trivial. I step back. The figure advances. I stumble over a root. The light flickers. In that moment I understand. This creature, call it what you will, lives between our world and something else. It carved the X circle to mark the thin places. It orchestrated Lucy's terror, Molly's abduction, my chase, to draw me here. Why? To witness, to feed on fear, to prove that in these lonely places someone will come. The bulb sputters. Darkness surges. I fumble for my flashlight. Dead. I hear Torres cry out. I flip on my taser light. Weak green glow. The figure stands inches away. Featureless eyes reflecting the glow. I lash out. Taser probe crackles against nothing. The beam flickers out. I'm plunged into darkness. I fumble for my radio. Silence. The generator sputters and dies. My breath hammers. I strain my ears. The figure is gone. Only the silent drip of water remains. I stand, chest heaving, and switch on my secondary light. The cavern is empty. The tunnel mouth yawns behind me. The wall is scrawled, "You see." I back toward the tunnel, stumbling. At the entrance, Torres collapses into view, clutching her arm. No wound, but she trembles. I help her up. "Let's go," I whisper. We climb the ladder into the hatch. Marsh's flashlight blinds me as I emerge. He extends a hand. I scramble out. Behind me, the hatch closes as if alive. I turn. No tunnel, only solid stone. We guide Torres away. I glance back, the pump house floor above, the trailer park lights distant. The night is silent. Marsh approaches, face pale. "What did you see?" I swallow. "Something that shouldn't exist." He nods slowly. "We'll call it case closed, unexplained entity. Report it, file it, then bury it." I shake my head. Number we record everything. We warn people. Torres steadies herself. "Emre, some things are beyond us." I look at the woods, at the sky brightening. Then we learn, we prepare, because he's here, and he'll return. Molly's voice echoes. "He lives in the marks." I kneel, rub my finger over the carved Y on the doorframe. I close my eyes. I whisper back, "Because we come." I'd been on the road for 12 hours straight. Radio quiet, except for the hum of cicadas pressing against the cruiser's windows. Midnight in Miller County, Georgia, and the Whisper Pines trailer court lay sprawled off Highway 19 like a half-forgotten dream. The gravel road in was pocked with ruts that rattled every bone in my spine. I killed the engine under a sputtering street lamp, the yellow glow flickering over rusted A-frames and sagging porches. My partner was off sick tonight, so I was flying solo. Unit 47, call sign Ghost, making the rounds on a quiet shift. Quiet until dispatch cut through the stillness. Unit 47, we've got multiple 911 hang-ups from Whisper Pines. Neighbors report screams coming from an unoccupied trailer. Check it out. Copy that, I'd thought, just another false alarm. I clicked on the emergency lights, low power, no siren, and eased down the single lane between units. Trailer after trailer, chipped paint, broken steps, empty beer cans gathering in corners like quiet witnesses. At the far end, number C12 sat dark, its door swinging slightly in the breeze. I stepped onto the porch, boot heels crunching. A child's swing in the yard swung back and forth even though no breeze stirred the air. The chains groaned like a slow warning. I flicked on my flashlight and called out, "Georgia PD, anyone here?" My voice sounded tinny in the closed yard. No answer except the cicadas and the distant rumble of a freight train. Inside, the living room was a mess. Upturned chairs, a coffee table cracked in two, foam from a shattered couch cushion drifting like snow. The front window was cracked, jagged glass on the floor. I swept the beam around, dirty dishes in a sink, a toppled lamp, a single shoe lying near the threshold. No blood, no body, just the smell. Stale, damp, like mold, and something else I couldn't name. My gut told me someone had been here recently. I crouched and saw footprints in the dust leading down the narrow hallway. Good, I thought. Tracks to follow. The hallway walls were warped MDF, yellowed wallpaper peeling at the seams. Doors on either side, bathroom, bedroom, were closed. I unholstered my pistol, radio muted against my vest, and eased toward the first door, kicked it gently. It swung open into darkness. Empty bedroom, single bed frame, no mattress. A squeaking noise behind me made me whirl. Flashlight cutting a wide arc. Nothing. I swallowed. Second door, bathroom. Water dripped somewhere inside. I pushed. The bathtub was half filled with murky water. At first I thought it was just grime, but then the water rippled, as if something moved below. My heart thumped loud enough to drown out the drip. "Ma'am, step out where I can see you," I said, voice steady, though my pulse raced. The shower curtain twitched. A woman's silhouette pressed against it, slender, drenched. I stepped forward. She yanked back the curtain and bolted past me into the hall. I chased, shouting, "Georgia PD, stop!" She vanished into the next trailer, slipping through the open back door like a ghost. I crossed the threshold into D14. Cooler air, the odor of rot and oil. My flashlight caught a wall plastered with Polaroids, dozens of them. Faces of children, men, women, neighbors, hitchhikers, someone who'd passed through. And in each, a dark shape behind the subject, a blur of water, shadow, something humanoid. My skin crawled. I stepped closer. The last photo I picked up was warm, the emulsion soft under my fingers. My cruiser parked outside C12, my own car on film. A voice behind me, soft, distant. "You shouldn't have come." I spun. She stood in the center of the room, dripping wet, hair plastered to her cheeks. Her eyes were empty wells. "Who are you?" I asked, leveling my flashlight. "They told me to wait," she whispered. "They need a witness." I tapped the radio mic. Nothing. It jammed. No dispatch, no backup. Just the thrum of insects outside and the metallic drip of water from her sleeve. I tried reason. "Ma'am, these people in the photos, where are they now?" She tilted her head, lips curling. "They're still here." She pointed at the wall. The Polaroids began to peel, falling one by one to the floor, revealing scrawled words underneath. "When," "you," silence, "them." I felt a claw grip my spine. I lifted my pistol, training the beam on her. She smiled, showing dark gums. "Tell them," she said. "Tell them what you saw." The overhead bulb shattered. Darkness swallowed the room. I fumbled for my radio, heart slamming. The Polaroids rustled on the ground as if stirred by breath. Then, in the black, I heard the drip. Water from the bathtub trailer C12. And behind it, the soft click of a camera. A shutter. I fired a warning shot into the ceiling. The bullet sparked insulation, and the world lit up in a flash of orange. When the echoes died, she was gone. The photos lay face down in a pool of water on the floor. I flipped one, my own face, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. The door behind me creaked. I spun. Empty hallway. My radio crackled to life. "Unit 47, you there?" "Backup on the way." I swallowed. "Affirmative," I rasped. I stamped out of D14, heart hammering, Polaroid in hand. Outside under the street lamp, the swing had stopped. The night was still. I bagged the photo as evidence, logged the call. Subject fled, possible paranormal activity, recommend further investigation. But I know better. I saw her face in every missing person's photo. I heard the camera click behind me when no one else was there. And I know she's waiting, still dripping from that tub, still whispering that they need a witness. The night air pressed against my skin like a damp shroud as I climbed back into the cruiser. My hands trembled on the wheel, Polaroid taped to the dash where its edges curled with moisture. I flicked the siren off and leaned my head back. Whisper. Pines lay silent, but I could still hear that drip, click, drip, click in my mind. Dispatch had sent Unit 52 as backup. They'd arrive in maybe 5 minutes. I needed to buy time, needed to understand what I'd unleashed. I started C-12's engine again. Ironically, the trailer's ancient generator had somehow sputtered to life when I left. Its single exterior lamp pulsed, casting a sickly yellow glow across the gravel. I stepped out, flashlight in one hand, service pistol in the other, and approached slowly. Every instinct screamed, "Trap," but I had to know. I swept the beam across the porch, empty, no footprints. The child's swing hung motionless. I crossed to the door and pressed my shoulder into it. It swung inward on a groan. Inside, the stale air was thicker. I followed the hallway to the bathroom. The tub was empty now, no water, no shape, just chipped porcelain-stained brown. The drain gurgled as if still letting water out. I shone my light into the drain. Something white caught at the grate. A scrap of photo paper. I pried it loose with my gloved finger. It was the corner of a Polaroid, her arm, pale and wet. I stowed it in an evidence bag. A soft scrape behind me made me whirl. In the bedroom doorway, a silhouette, tall, hunched, my pulse rocketed. "Georgia PD," I called. "Show yourself." No answer, only the scrape of toe against wood. I stepped forward, heart in my throat. The silhouette dissolved into darkness. I exhaled, relief and frustration mingling. Then the door slammed shut. I flicked the light switch. Dead. My radio whimpered static. I pounded the wall with my fist. "Unit 47 to dispatch," I hissed into the mic. "Lost power in C-12, copy?" Static. I cursed. Backup was still minutes out. I drew my light and gun and pressed down the hall. The Polaroid corner crinkled in my pocket. Each step kicked up dust motes dancing in the beam. The hallway pulsed with silence until I reached the far door, D-14. I knew she'd fled there first. I cracked the door. The Polaroids on the wall faced down, water pooling. I shined my light across them. One by one they flipped, face up, though no breeze stirred. Portrait after portrait. Neighbors, drifters, a stray dog, even the county coroner. Each face recorded in mid-expression. Surprise, fear, pain. My own face appeared in the second row, mouth open in a silent scream. Beneath each photo, scrawled in black marker, "Remember me." A rasping breath behind me. I spun. She stood inches away, pale and dripping, eyes dark hollows. "You remember?" she whispered. Her voice rippled like water. I swallowed. "Who are you?" I managed. She smiled. "I'm the one who stayed." Her fingers brushed the photos, and each image blurred, faces melting into water stains. The words beneath shifted. They left me. I raised my pistol. "Stop messing with me." She laughed, soft, echoing. The wall bulged, and photos peeled away to reveal rotting wood behind. The wood split in a web of cracks, as if breathing. I backed up, heart slamming. The floorboards creaked. Something moved under the floor, wave-like ripples, as if the trailer floated on water. Then the bathtub gurgled through the wall. Water seeped from the baseboards, pooling around my boots. I jerked my foot back. The water spread, carrying more photo fragments swirling in the shallow flood. A child's face, a man's hand, my cruiser's headlight. The water licked my ankles. I heard that click. "Tell them." she whispered at my ear. I spun. She was gone. The flashlight beam landed on the far corner. The bathroom door closed. I crossed and wrenched it open. The tub was back, half filled again, dark water rippling. On the rim, a fresh Polaroid. Me, standing in the hall, gun drawn, flashlight trembling. I picked it up. On the back, scrawled, "Next." A crash behind me. I whirled. The wall where the photos had been was gone, torn open like paper. Beyond lay blackness deeper than night, and something moved in that void. Long limbs, dripping. I stepped back, heart in my throat. The void pulsed, and a low moan vibrated through the trailer. My radio crackled. "Unit 47, status?" I fumbled for it. "Aye, power's out. I'm investigating possible structural collapse. Need units to stage." "Copy that. ETA 2 mics." I cut the mic. 2 minutes felt like hours. I had to escape. I turned to the hall, but the door slammed shut. I yanked the handle, locked. I hammered with my shoulder. Splinters rained, then silence. The dripping stopped. The moan faded. The void winked out. The bathtub water stilled. The single lamp over the sink flickered on, bright, white. I shielded my eyes. When I looked again, the room was empty. No water, no photos, no floor damage. Just clean tile and a new bar of soap on the sink. I stood frozen. The lamp clicked off. Darkness returned. My radio sputtered. "Unit 47, backups outside." "You good?" I exhaled. I'm fine. Coming out." I opened the door. The hallway was intact, dust-free, ordinary. Outside, car headlights bathed the trailer in harsh light. Unit 52 tumbled out, rifles raised. "Captain wants a full report," one called. I nodded, swallowing. I stepped into the night. The breeze was still. Whisper Pines was silent again. I handed the Polaroid to my partner. She stared at it, my reflection, eyes wide. Beneath, on the ground, a wet footprint leading back to C12. I watched it fade in the gravel. As they hauled me away, I looked once more at the trailer. The porch light winked off, and I heard, faint as a memory, the soft drip. The thin Georgia moon hovered low as I climbed back through the window of C12, boots thudding against the warped linoleum. My heart still hammered from the way the trailer had shifted. The others thought it was structural, settling foundations, termite damage, but I'd felt the tremor beneath my feet, like the trailer floating on some unseen current. I flicked on my flashlight. Dust motes drifted in the beam. Every surface looked unchanged, except for the faint wet footprint on the floor, leading from the bathroom into the hall. I crouched, tracing it with a gloved finger. The print pulsed cold, though the air was stifling. I pocketed the Polaroid labeled "Next." If that was an invitation, I didn't intend to accept, but I had to know who or what had left it. Each step toward the rear door echoed. The walls, once plastered with Polaroids, were smooth again, as if they'd never existed. I exhaled. Evidence of the paranormal, or my own unraveling. I tapped the door, half expecting it to give way. It didn't. I gave it a firm kick. The jam held. Fine, I'd go out the front. As I turned, the overhead lights snapped on, blinding. I raised my hand to shield my eyes. In the center of the room stood the woman, water dripping from her hair, silhouette haloed in white. My pistol rose automatically. "Don't," she whispered. The door behind me rattled. The swell of adrenaline made my vision tunnel. I steadied the beam on her face. Her eyes, black pools, held nothing but expectation. I swallowed. "What do you want?" The words came out harsher than intended. Her lips curved. "A witness," she repeated. "You heard the screams." I remembered Old Man Harris's call. She's in there. Somebody's dying in that trailer. But nobody died in C-12, at least nobody human. I holstered my pistol. I saw footprints, a photo, you. My voice cracked. She tilted her head, water droplets flinging off her chin. "Tell them," she said. "Tell them what you saw." The floorboard groaned. I glanced down. The wet footprint had multiplied. Dozens of prints, swirling across the floor toward the bathroom. I stepped back. Where they led, the door frame sagged, wood splintered. I approached reluctantly. Light glinted off metal under the door. My flashlight beam slipped beneath, the barrel of my service revolver dripping water. My partner's backup weapon, left behind when Unit 52 arrived, somehow lay there, soaked. I crouched and slid it out. The cylinder was empty, no rounds. I felt bile rise. Who disarmed my partner? Or had the woman reached through some breach? I heard the bathtub gurgle. The door to the hall rattled. I risked a glance back at her. She'd vanished. Footsteps in the hall, mine or hers. I raised the flashlight and gun, creeping toward the living room. The front door stood open a crack, moonlight slicing in. I radioed Unit 47 to dispatch. Evidence collection delayed, possible structural damage. Stand by. Static, I cursed. The rig's radio sometimes fizzled on this frequency. I'd have to rely on my phone once I re-entered normal service. Out the front, the gravel yard lay empty. No swing movement, no street lamp flicker, just the hum of cicadas. I blinked, and the porch light snapped off. Darkness. I cursed and retreated inside. The moment my back cleared the threshold, the light snapped back on. Someone, or something, was playing with me. I turned to go down the hall when a soft sob echoed from the bedroom. Not the harsh scream from earlier, a child's whimper. I paused. The door stood ajar. Heart in my throat, I edged toward it. "Georgia PD," I called softly. "I need to make sure you're safe." The sobbing stopped. A tiny hand shot out and yanked me inside. I stumbled into the room. Moonlight revealed a small girl, 7, 8 years old, kneeling on the floor, back to me. Her hair plastered to her shoulders, drenched though there was no water here. She rocked, whispering, "They took my mommy." My breath went cold. I dropped to one knee. "Hey there, what's your name?" She didn't answer. I glanced around. No bed, no toys, just a single photo taped to the wall, a family portrait. A smiling mother, father, and little girl. The mother's face had been scratched away. I felt the hairs on my neck stand. The girl stood and turned. Eyes black. Mouth stretched into a grin that was too wide. "Do you remember her?" she asked. Her voice was layered, childlike, then deeper, older. I shook my head. "No, who?" She held up a finger to her lips. Silent words. The door slammed shut behind me. I slammed my shoulder into it, locked. I pounded. The little girl giggled, a hollow sound. Light flickered. I braced myself, sliding along the wall to the hallway. The door handle rattled as if buffeted by unseen hands. I drew my pistol, muzzle aimed at the departing shape of the girl's silhouette melting into the wallpaper. Then the portrait on the wall peeled away, fluttering down to reveal a new photo beneath. My partner's cruiser parked outside D14, camera flash mid-strobe. I recognized the unit number, 52. Beneath, scrawled, "Don't forget." My phone buzzed. Dispatch. "Unit 47, backup on site. You good?" I tapped reply. "Section clear, no sign of subject, collecting evidence." I sent it before I could rethink. Backup would sweep in thinking this was a simple trespass. They'd never believe the photos. They'd think I planted them. A deep rumble shook the trailer. The walls groaned. I slid to the floor, braced against the door. The ceiling seam parted, and a trickle of water ran down. In the drip, I heard a faint clicking, film advancing through a camera. Over and over, drip, click, drip, click. I jammed my shoulder against the door. Splinters rained. The sobbing resumed. Child's cry, woman's wail blended into one. I closed my eyes, inhaled. I had a choice. Stay and document this haunted shell, or flee and regroup. My training argued containment. My gut begged escape. I kicked out the bottom panel of the door. Light from the hallway spilled in. I vaulted through the gap as the door gave way. Behind me, the trailer groaned, walls bending inward. I raced down the porch steps as the structure seemed to pulse, as if breathing. Gravel sprayed under my boots. I halted at my cruiser, heart slamming. Every hair on my arm stood up when the door to C-12 exploded inward. The woman stepped out, water cascading off her. She paused under the street lamp, turning her head as if hearing something only she could. Her lips curved. She raised one hand and pointed at me. Then she receded into shadow, melting against the siding, leaving only the echo of her whisper. Remember. I climbed into the cruiser, slamming the door. I fumbled for the Polaroid in my pocket. The image was blank white. I peeled it. It was unexposed. I looked up. The street lamp flickered and died. Whisper pines plunged into darkness. My radio crackled at last. Unit 47, you copy? We're clearing C-12, structural collapse. No sign of suspect or child. You all right? I swallowed hard. Affirmative. I'm en route, code 3 to station. I engaged the lights and peeled out onto Highway 19, tires chewing gravel. As I accelerated, I glanced at the dashboard, my Polaroid taped beside the compass. Now it showed her face. The woman and the little girl merged into one, eyes black hollows, a grin impossibly wide. On the back, a single word in jagged handwriting, ours. I punched the steering wheel. Damn it, I muttered. Behind me, whisper pines faded in my mirror, dark, silent, waiting. The night swallowed it whole, and I thought, they've claimed C-12, they have their witness, but what about me? Would I ever be free of what I saw? I pulled into the precinct just before dawn, engine still idling, Polaroid tucked under my arm like a curse. The lot was nearly empty, one patrol car, the detective's sedan, and the neon Georgia County Sheriff's sign buzzed overhead. I killed the engine and sat for a moment, watching the mist curl across the asphalt. My uniform smelled of stale coffee and adrenaline. Inside, the station was quiet except for the soft click of keyboards and records and the distant drone of the jailer's radio. I carried the photo through the swing door into roll call, where Deputy Barnes looked up with bleary eyes. "Rough night?" she asked, stifling a yawn. "Something like that," I said, pulling the Polaroid from my pocket and dropping it on her desk. The glossy image showed my cruiser in the gloom, headlights flaring like eyes. On the back, someone had scrawled next. Barnes frowned. "You still chasing that Whisper Pines call?" I nodded. "There's more to it." I watched her study the photo under the fluorescent light. She tapped it with a pen. "Structural collapse, no bodies, no crime scene. You got nothing." "Not nothing," I said softly. I saw footprints leading through the walls, photographs moving on their own, and her. I waved a hand, as if brushing away the memory of the dripping woman. She raised an eyebrow. "Look, ghost," she used my call sign. "If you're chasing ghosts, paperwork's on you. Captain wants a clean report by 0800. I picked up the photo. I'll file it, but I'm not done. By the time I finished my report, the sun was peeking over the pine trees. I headed home in a daze, the Polaroid taped to the dash like a splinter under my skin. At my apartment, Every surface greeted me with normalcy. Cereal boxes on the counter, the hum of the fridge, my cat circling my ankles. I set my keys down and nearly missed the soft click from my pocket. The photo had shifted, now face up, showing that hollow-eyed grin. My chest tightened. I shoved it into a drawer. I tried to sleep, but dreamt of running down the trailer court hallways, doors slamming ahead of me, laughter trailing my heels. I woke gasping at 3 a.m., sheets twisted around me, heart pounding. The Polaroid burned behind my eyelids. I convinced myself it was stress. Night shift, weird call, isolation. But when I blinked, the drip, click, echoed in the dark. Morning came too fast. I grabbed coffee and the Polaroid, deciding to take it to forensics. Dr. Hargrove examined it under a loupe. Fresh chemoresin coating, she said. Someone's been handling this. No fingerprints, though. I frowned. Could be water damage? She shook her head. Too deliberate. She slipped the photo into an evidence sleeve. I ran the film batch number. Unregistered stock. Doesn't match any department orders. Meaning it's not standard issue. She smiled thinly. Meaning someone's smuggling their own film into crime scenes. I thanked her and left with more questions. Back at my desk, I pulled the missing persons logs for Whisper Pines and adjacent precincts. 7 unaccounted for in the last 2 years. 3 adults, 4 children. All last seen near C12 or D14. Notes said no foul play suspected, or possible runaway. I scrawled names on a notepad: Harris child, Ramirez mother, Jenkins drifter. Each case file was thin, no evidence, no witnesses, almost like they were erased. My gut twisted. I paged through incident photos. None showed the dripping woman. None showed footprints through walls. Just blank corridors. I cross-referenced maintenance logs. C12 had no record of generator repair. D14 was condemned twice, but still occupied. Someone kept those trailers alive. Someone kept people inside them. And off the books. I drove back to Whisper Pines before lunch. The gravel road looked different in the daylight. Less sinister, more forlorn. Trailer court seemed abandoned. Wheelchairs left on porches. Children's toys half buried in weeds. I approached Old Man Harris's trailer, C10, and knocked. No answer. I peered through the window. Faded floral curtains, an overturned chair. The floor was clean, but I spotted dark smudges near the baseboard. I knelt. Footprints, small, child size, leading under the couch. I radioed crime scene for prints. As I stood, a voice drifted. They need a story. I spun. No one there. Just a breeze stirring the dead grass. I shook my head. My radio crackled. Unit 47, hurry up, lunch break's over. I answered and slipped away. Back in my cruiser, I noticed on the map app a cluster of calls near D14. Noise, complaints, trespassing, animal cruelty. All dismissed. I punched in a request for timestamps and addresses. My phone buzzed. An email from an unknown address. Subject line, look again. Attachment, another Polaroid. This one, a blurry shot of me sleeping in my apartment, taken from my closet. My blood ran cold. The file metadata created 3 minutes ago. Hands shaking, I forwarded it to Internal Affairs. Then I deleted my address book. I locked the drawer with my gun. I checked every lock and heard footsteps behind my door. I spun, heart at my throat. Nothing, just the hum of the air conditioner. I exhaled. That night, I returned to C12 with tape measure and camera. I walked the trailer's perimeter. Foundation sagging, siding warped, ground soft from unseen leaks. I stepped inside. The hall stretched impossibly long, shadows pooling at the far end. I measured width, length, angles. Everything matched the blueprints. No secret rooms, no extra space. Yet footprints in the dust trailed into the walls themselves, vanishing where wood met panel. I swept the flashlight along the seam. Light caught a hairline crack, too straight to beware. I pressed my thumb. The panel gave slightly. I pried with a screwdriver. The wall peeled back to reveal insulation and studs, just like any trailer. No hidden cavity. I frowned. Then I heard it, a soft sob coming from inside the wall. I leaned in. The drywall vibrated. I pressed my ear. It was a child's voice. "Help me." It was faint, distant, desperate. I stepped back, pistol drawn. "Georgia PD, show yourself." My voice sounded small. The sobbing stopped. Silence, thick and absolute. Then, from my cruiser's direction, drip, click. I whirled. The Polaroid taped to the dash under the street lamp's glow had developed further. Another image stamped beside my face. The hallway of C12, drenched, footprints leading into darkness. Beneath, scrawled, "You're next." My radio crackled violently, then went dead. The trailer lights snapped off. I was alone in the black, heart hammering, trapped between the real and the impossible. I thought of Barnes's words. "If you're chasing ghosts," but I wasn't chasing. They were chasing me. I backed out onto the gravel, breathing hard. The mist had returned, swirling around my boots. I snapped the cruiser into drive and peeled away, eyes on the rearview mirror. Trailer C12 stood motionless under the street lamp. Except the lamp had gone dark. In the mirror, I thought I saw a pale shape standing in its glow. Then it vanished. I slammed the door closed at home and leaned against it, chest heaving. I fumbled for my phone. 20 missed calls, dispatch, internal affairs, Barnes. I texted Barnes, "Don't come here." She replied, "Stay safe. I'm on my way." Now I sit in the dark, Polaroid after Polaroid spread on the table. Each one showing a piece of my life, my cruiser, my apartment, the precinct, C12's hall, all stamped with that glossy black grin. My service pistol lies beside them, a hollow comfort. I can't tell reality from reflection. The drip, click, drip, click echoes in my skull. Tomorrow, I'll meet Barnes at Whisper Pines. We'll bring a camera crew, structural engineers, whatever it takes. We'll document every inch. We'll prove it's nothing supernatural. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I rounded the corner of the last trailer and nearly collided with Deputy Barnes, flashlight and notebook in hand. Her face was pale beneath the brim of her cap. "You called me out here at 0300, she whispered. "What the hell is going on?" I swallowed hard. I needed backup. I found something. I held up the latest Polaroid, the one scrawled, "You're next." Her jaw clenched. Behind us, C12 loomed, silent. The gravel crunched under our boots. I clicked on my flashlight and shone it at the trailer's side. The siding was warped in a subtle bulge, like the skin of an overheated engine. "Look." She knelt, running a gloved finger along the seam. "Something's behind there." I produced my pry bar. "Help me get this panel off." Together, we wedged it free. Insulation fell away, revealing the stud wall. But behind the studs, nothing but darkness. My beam pierced a void that shouldn't exist. The space between trailers is 14 inches. This gap yawned 2 feet deep. Barnes shone her light in. That's impossible. I crouched. At the back of the cavity lay a child's sneaker, mud-caked, size small. I recognized the brand from Harris's missing daughter. I reached in and retrieved it. The instant I touched it, the void rippled, as if alive, and I jerked my hand back. The sneaker slid into the darkness, vanishing with a soft splash. though no water was there. A low groan vibrated through the metal frame. The trailer shuddered. Barnes grabbed my arm. "We need to leave." I shook my head. "Not yet." I pressed my ear to the gap. A faint heartbeat, slow, irregular, echoed from inside the wall. I stepped back, stunned. "There's someone in there." Barnes drew her weapon. "You sure?" I flicked on my radio. Static. "Dispatch, this is Unit 47. I need EMS and rescue on scene. Possible entrapment in C12 wall cavity." No answer. Only distant cicadas. The trailer trembled again. The overhead lamp flickered. From inside came a child's sob, distant and hollow. Barnes winced. "Jesus." I tapped my flashlight against the frame. "Georgia PD. If anyone's in there, make a noise." Silence. Then a soft knock. Wood on wood from inside the cavity. We both jumped. "Sounds like, 'Help me,'" I murmured. Barnes nodded. She radioed on her phone. "I'm sending it, but we need to open that up. Now." I set to work prying out adjacent studs. Barnes shone her light through the widening hole. At first, nothing. Then the silhouette of a small body curled in the darkness. I sucked in a breath. "Hang on," I said, slipping my hand inside to find a wrist. Something cold and wet closed around my fingers. I yanked back. My glove came away soaked and slimy. Barnes trained her beam. The figure had retreated farther into the cavity. I flashed the light along the interior. Scrawled on the inner sheathing, words carved deep into the wood. "Stay with us." A scratchy whisper echoed, "Don't leave me." Barnes shone her light at my face. "We can't just yank them out." I shook my head. "It's tangled, like they've grown into the wall." We pried more panels away until the gap was wide enough to see fully inside. There, pressed between studs, was the little girl. Clothes soaked, hair plastered, eyes hollow. She stared at us, expression blank. Behind her, the cavity extended impossibly deeper, an inky tunnel. "Ma'am?" Barnes coaxed. "It's okay, we're here to help." The girl's head lolled. She whispered, "They won't let me go." I radioed, voice tight. "Unit 47 to dispatch. Rescue en route. We have a miner trapped inside wall cavity, unresponsive but alive." As I spoke, the girl slid forward, motionless like a marionette. Her body passed through the studs as if the wood were water. Barnes yelped and stepped back. I leapt forward and caught her before she vanished fully, arms closing on empty air. "No!" I shouted. The cavity rippled and snapped shut behind her, leaving nothing but stud and insulation. The trailer floor vibrated, then stilled. Barnes and I stared at the opening. We searched the ground. No sneaker, no girl, nothing but dirt and splintered wood. My radio crackled. "Unit 47, this is dispatch. Are you still there?" I swallowed. Affirmative, situation contained, no sign of occupant. Barnes shook her head. "They got her." I nodded numbly. They did. We climbed back into the cruiser. I peeled away, heart hammering. Behind me, C-12 stood quiet, its secret sealed. On the dash lay the Polaroid, "You're next," now blank again. Barnes cleared her throat. "What do we tell the captain?" I looked at her, exhausted. "The truth." She frowned. "He won't believe it." I slid the Polaroid into an evidence envelope. "Then we show him." As we drove off, the trailer court vanished into mist. In the mirror, I thought I saw the little girl's silhouette in the open doorway, watching us leave. Then she faded. The gravel road stretched ahead. I swallowed hard. Behind me, the drip, click, drip. Click had returned. Only now it sounded like footsteps. I pressed my back hard against the cruiser's door, chest heaving. Deputy Barnes crouched beside me, flashlight trained on the trailer's side where we'd just exposed that impossible cavity. The night was deathly silent. No cicadas, no breeze, just the thrum of my own pulse. "We need to call this in," Barnes whispered, voice tight. "Send hazmat, structural, everybody." I nodded, thumb trembling on the radio button. "Dispatch, this is Unit 47. We have confirmed void space inside C-12 wall. Possible entrapped subject, unknown condition. Request rescue and structural team." "Static, then. Copy that. Unit 47. Rescue en route. ETA 5 mics. 5 minutes might as well be 5 hours. I kept the beam on the gap. The studs bit into nothingness, yet I'd seen the little girl's shape vanish into that black. My jaw ached from clenching. "Barnes," I ventured. "What do you think it is?" She swallowed. "I don't know. Paranormal's not in my file, but..." She trailed off, glancing at the Polaroid. "Your witness? You saw it?" I looked down at the photo, my reflection, dark-eyed, hollow-cheeked, as if the trailer had imprinted itself on my soul. I folded it into an evidence bag. She wasn't just trapped, she was part of it. Barnes's flashlight beam wavered. "Part of the wall?" I nodded slowly. When I touched her sneaker, the void pulsed. The trailer breathed, and that whisper, "They need a story." A distant rumble rolled through the park, rescue lights cresting the rise. I exhaled. "Here we go." Chief Hollis and 2 firefighters arrived, clipboards and hard hats. I led them to the panel. Hollis frowned at the gap. "Lieutenant, this is beyond structural. You sure there's nothing behind here?" I held up the sneaker fragment I'd recovered earlier. She was here, then she wasn't. A tech knelt and scanned the cavity with a thermal imager. The screen flickered. Blue cold, then a hot spot at the far end. Something, or someone, still inside. The tech straightened. "We've got movement. Heat signature, child-sized, about 10 feet back." Barnes swallowed. We saw more than 10 inches of void. Hollis's jaw tightened. "Clear the area. Rescue team only." They set to work, cutting away the exterior siding around C-12, chiseling carefully. I stepped back, heart lodged in my throat. Each panel removed revealed more of that impossible gap, dark as oil. The beams around it creaked, as if resisting. Inside, the void yawned. The thermal scope showed her curled in the corner, still, eyes closed. A rescuer in full gear shimmied into the opening on his belly. I held my breath. He reached her, lifted her arm. The sleeve was sodden, soaked through to the bone-white skin. He said into his radio, "I've got her." Gently, she's cold but breathing. They extracted her backward, inch by inch, until she lay on a stretcher. She looked ghostly pale, eyes shut, lips moving in a silent plea. EMTs rushed her away. I exhaled so hard my ribs ached. Barnes put a hand on my shoulder. "We did it." I shook my head. We released her. Barnes frowned. "What do you mean?" I pointed at the void. It pulsed, briefly, like a heartbeat. Then the studs creaked and the gap snapped shut behind the last panel, as if swallowing itself. The wall smoothed, perfect. Paint intact. No sign we'd ever cut. Hollis approached. "Good work, Lieutenant. Subject rescued. Trailer's unstable. Condemn it." He nodded to Barnes. "Get your report in." Then he turned and walked away. I shone my flashlight on the wall. The seam was gone. A fresh coat of white paint gleamed under the beam. No cracks, no warping. I tapped it. Solid. Barnes watched me. "You okay?" I pocketed my light. "Yeah, just thinking." I glanced at the path where the girl had been carried off. The gravel was pristine. No footprints, no blood, no water. Nothing but the faint echo of her sob. That morning at the station, Internal Affairs grilled me on procedure. Why I'd used pry bars without a warrant. Why no official record of the void existed. Why the evidence envelope contained blank Polaroids. I answered truthfully. Guardian witness. Unusual structural anomaly. Rescue of a minor. They frowned at the Polaroid, you're next, then at each other, and filed the report. Back at home, I locked every door and window. I set the Polaroids on the kitchen table. Every one from the last week, including the new photo of the girl on the stretcher. On the back, thank you. I stared at her closed eyes. She looked peaceful, but her lips twitched as if mouthing words I couldn't hear. That night, I dreamed of whisper pines. The trailers gleamed under a blood moon. I walked the lane. Each step echoed click, 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 no footprints. At C12, the door stood ajar. I entered. The hall stretched away, infinite, and at the end I saw her, the woman, hair plastered, silhouette framed in moonlight. She raised a hand, beckoning. Behind her, dozens of Polaroids fluttered in the breeze. My face, the girl's face, the creek behind the park, the precinct lobby, my apartment door. Each stamped with a single word, observe. She whispered, tell them. I woke with a start, sheets tangled, heart pounding. On my nightstand lay a new Polaroid, face down. My hand shook as I flipped it. The image, me, asleep, mouth open in a silent scream. Dashboard clock reading 3:33 a.m. On the back, in jagged scrawl, now. I dropped it. It fluttered to the floor. The click of my phone startled me. A text from an unknown number. They remember you. I stared at the dark doorway. The drip, click, drip, click came from the hall. I grabbed my service pistol and flashlight. Tomorrow, I'll return to Whisper Pines, this time with a full team, video crew, structural engineers, clergy, whatever. We'll document everything. We'll broadcast it. I rolled onto the gravel at first light, the cruiser's headlights carving pale lanes through the mist. Behind me, 2 unmarked vans and a small film crew's SUV rumbled in. Detectives, a structural engineer, a pastor, and a pair of camera operators. Deputy Barnes stood beside me, clipboard in hand, eyes red from lack of sleep. The scene looked like a minor production. Yellow tape, tripods, and coffee cups scattered on the hood of a backup cruiser. Yet the air still felt heavy, as though Whisper Pines trailer court remembered every tremor of the past nights and pressed it into the damp pine needles. I stepped out, boots crunching. All right, I said, voice low. We document everything. Engineer, start on the east wall of C12. Cameras, get wide shots, then close-ups of the seam. Pastor, you set up wherever you like. Detectives, log any anomalies. I held up the Polaroid that had appeared on my nightstand, the one stamped, now. Its image was my sleeping form, frozen at 3:33 a.m., mouth open in silent terror. I slipped it into an evidence binder. Barnes raised an eyebrow. You sure you want to bring clergy into this? I nodded. If it's haunting, we need spiritual witness too. The engineer, a lean woman with safety goggles, tapped at her tablet. Readings are off the charts. The wall cavity's dimension fluctuates. Sometimes 14 inches, sometimes 2 feet, sometimes vanishing altogether. Thermal imaging shows cold spots that shift position. She frowned. Whatever this is, it's dynamic. A camera operator knelt by the trailer's side, lens trained on the seam we'd pried open. The sunlight caught jagged edges, and he zoomed in on microscopic cracks. We've got live feed, he said. Rolling. I took a deep breath and touched the siding. It rippled beneath my glove, like a pond disturbed by a breeze. The engineer gasped. I stepped back as the wall sighed, a low exhalation of wood and metal. The seam widened by half an inch. Behind it, shadow pooled. I raised my flashlight. The beam vanished into a black that swallowed light. "That's our entry point," I said. "Rescue teams yesterday swore the cavity closed. No gap. Now it's open again." The pastor crossed himself. "God help us." I nodded. "We move in pairs." I turned to Detective Morales. "You and I go first. Barnes, you film our approach." We unscrewed the remaining siding panel and slid it aside. The void yawned, impossibly deep, edges tinged with damp. A faint sob echoed, distant. Morales swallowed and shone his light inside. At the far end, the little girl's form hunched, rocking. She looked thinner, more translucent. Her clothes had changed to a pale gown. She turned. Her eyes were dark hollows. She raised one finger to her lips. Barnes's camera trembled. She's here." I spoke softly. "I'm Officer Grant. We're here to bring you out." My voice cracked. The void pulsed in response, like a heartbeat. The girl raised both arms and moved closer through the studs as though the wood were water. Her feet made no sound. Morales shone his light on her sneakers, the same mud-caked pair we'd recovered. "It's her," he whispered. She stopped at the trailer floor, stepping out into the beam. Her gown dripped black water that pooled at her ankles and seeped into the gravel. She looked at me, lips quivering. "They need a story," she said. Her voice layered, childish sorrow and an older rasping echo. I swallowed. "Tell me what happened." She pointed down the interior of the void. "They came through the walls." I glanced at the engineer's tablet. The walls registered nothing. Solid. "Who?" She smiled, sad. "All of them." She raised her hand and flicked water toward the cavity. The studs bent inward, and dozens of Polaroid photos drifted out like leaves on a stream. Barnes's camera caught them. Images of every crew member, every detective, every pastor and engineer, each face mid-expression, eyes wide. And behind each person, faint ripples of darkness, like a reflection in disturbed water. I caught one drifting by, my own face screaming. On its back, "Listen." The pastor crossed himself again. "Lord, have mercy." Suddenly the void groaned and contracted, pulling the photos back inside. The seam snapped shut. Barnes yelped. I slammed my fist where the panel had been. Wood vibrated under my knuckles. The drip, click, echoed from inside. "Did you see that?" Morales hissed. "Yeah," I said. "It wants us to listen." I keyed my radio. "Unit 47, evidence team stand by. We need to record audio." Barnes adjusted her mic. The engineer placed sensors on the siding. The pastor held a small recorder. I pressed my ear to the wall. At first, silence, then faint voices. Whispers layered, overlapping. I caught words. "Left behind. Remember me. Tell them. Don't forget. They belong." The voices rose in a low chorus, then fell to a single plaintive sob. The sensors spiked. The air vibrated. I staggered back. "It's alive." The pastor stepped forward. "In the name of..." He paused as the whispers resolved into a single voice, the woman's. "We need a witness." I exchanged a look with Barnes. "We are witnesses." The wall pulsed, and a section of siding peeled outward like a hatch. Morales and I ducked through into the void. The world went dark, silence absolute. My flashlight beam revealed infinite studs stretching away in all directions. No floor, no ceiling, just a grid of wood and blackness. The air was cold, damp. My breath fogged. Barnes's voice crackled from behind. "You two stay on mic." We advanced. Every step echoed click, click, click. The studs closed behind us, erasing our path. We came to a chamber where dozens of bodies lay curled. Trailer residents, missing persons, the drifter, the Ramirez mother, the Jenkins child. Their skin was pale, mouths open in silent screams, eyes empty. They lay on a floor of Polaroids, each one a face, each one a story. The little girl knelt among them, gently touching each photo. She looked up. "They need closure," she said. "They're waiting for someone to remember." I swallowed. "We remember." She smiled, and the bodies stirred. Hands lifted, faces turned toward us. The drifter's lips cracked into a grin. The mother wept silently. The bodies rose, spectral, stepping toward the grid's edge. The void's walls pulsed. I realized it was drawing power from their memories, their last moments. "Tell them," the girl whispered. "Tell them the ending." My radio sputtered. Barnes's voice, "Lieutenant, get out!" The sidings collapsing. I grabbed Morales. We sprinted back the way we came, the floorboards clacking, the studs closing in. I felt the cold clutch of bodies brushing past. The exit seam was ahead, light bleeding in. We dove through as the void snapped shut behind us with a thunderous crack. We tumbled onto the gravel as siding panels fell. The trailer shuddered, then groaned and sagged. The engineer yelled, "Evacuate!" Firefighters backed off as C-12's side bowed inward, then settled silently. The seam was gone, smooth again. Barnes ran up, recorder in hand. "Got it all." She looked shaken. "You okay?" I nodded, breathing hard. "We told them." I held up my recorder. The pastor approached and played back the audio. Whispers, sobs, a child's voice. "Remember us." Then silence. Detective Morales shivered. "They're free?" I glanced at the trailer. "Or they've moved on to the next witness." That evening at the station, we watched the footage. The audio track faded in and out, voices barely audible. Witness, story, don't forget. The final frame showed the void chamber, empty, then a single Polaroid drifting into view. The little girl's face smiling sadly. The back read, "Yours." We filed the report as unexplained structural anomaly with possible mass entrapment. Subjects recovered, condition critical but alive. Officially, it was a miracle rescue. Unofficially, we knew we'd liberated something ancient, something that fed on memory and fear. I grew up in rural Alabama, but I spent the last 12 years patrolling the backroads of Calhoun County, and nothing prepared me for the call that came in just past midnight on June 14th. The dispatcher's voice was clipped, almost hesitant. "Unit 27, we've got a report of screaming coming from an abandoned mobile home over at Willow Creek Trailer Park. Neighbor says somebody went in last night and never came out." By the time I crested the lone hill and saw the rows of sagging trailers, the only light came from a single porch bulb swinging on its last flicker. Willow Creek sits 3 miles from the nearest paved road. Old, tin-roofed rigs, patched tarps, rusty swings that squeak in the wind. I eased my cruiser into the lot, the engine echoing off empty windows. My partner, Deputy Ramos, was already out, flashlight in hand. We approached the trailer in question. VIN plates long gone, the aluminum siding peeled like sunburnt skin. The front door hung open a crack, revealing nothing but darkness and a stale smell that reminded me of old socks and damp insulation. Ramos signaled me forward. I unholstered my flashlight and radio, half expecting someone to bolt out. Instead, it was silent, too silent, like the whole world was holding its breath. Inside, the floor was littered with broken toys, a plastic fire truck missing its wheels, a battered doll whose glass eye reflected my beam. The air was thick, and I felt a tickle at my temples, like I'd been holding my breath for too long. I swept the room, peeling wallpaper, an overturned recliner, a baby monitor dangling from its cord. Then I heard it. a faint gurgle, almost like someone choking, coming from the back bedroom. I kicked the door open. The walls were streaked with rust-colored stains. In the far corner lay an old hospital oxygen tank, its hose snaked across the floor. On the mattress, curled in a fetal position, was a teenage girl, her t-shirt soaked through. She moaned when I shone my light on her. "Help me," she rasped. Her name tag read Cassie, but it looked like it had been there for years. I knelt beside her, radioing for EMS. Ramos examined the tank's gauge. It was nearly empty, though the regulator still hissed faintly. "She's been breathing this," he said, voice tight. "Something's off." I checked the room for other hazards. No drug paraphernalia, no signs of forced entry, just the stale, fetid air. Outside, the neighbor, an older man named Boone, watched us from his porch, eyes wide. He told us he'd heard screaming around 2 a.m., but when he shone his flashlight, the trailer was dark and silent. By the time he called it in, the shrieks had started again, like someone trapped in a nightmare. We got Cassie into the cruiser and raced to the hospital. On the way, her breathing grew shallow. Every bump in the road made her cough up pink froth. I kept one hand on her shoulder, the other tapping the mic. "Unit 27, en route to regional medical with possible inhalation injury." That afternoon, the hazmat team traced the source, a cracked exhaust pipe on the old water heater in the trailer's crawl space. Carbon monoxide had seeped steadily into every room. Cassie's little portable tank had given her just enough clean air to survive, while the rest of her caretaker's mind, her aunt's mind, had been slowly poisoned. By the time deputies found her, she was delirious, convinced the trailer was alive and breathing. They evacuated the rest of the park. Deputies in hazmat and yellow suits, gas meters clicking. Every abandoned rig got checked. A dozen more leaks turned up. Old furnaces, corroded pipes, faulty generators. It was a miracle no one else had died. But that night, after the tear gas cleared and the ambulances departed, I went back alone. The trailer stood silent under a bruised sky. I stepped onto the sagging porch and saw, scrawled in the dust on the window, 2 words. "Stay out." I shouldn't have gone inside again. My radio was dead. The air was colder than before, unnatural for June. I shone my flashlight down the hallway and thought I saw a figure at the end, hunched, shaking. I called out, "Georgia County Sheriff's Office, come out slow." No answer. Heart pounding, I moved closer. That's when the floorboard creaked behind me, right where the oxygen tank had lain. I spun, but nothing was there, just the empty hallway stretching into darkness. My flashlight flickered. I heard the soft rasp of breathing. Not Cassie's, something deeper, sounding like the trailer itself inhaling. I backed toward the door. The beam landed on the words again, only now it looked smeared, as if dragged by fingernails. My skin crawled. I slammed outside, chest heaving, and fumbled for my radio. It burst to life with static. "Unit 27, you okay?" Ramos's voice sounded miles away. I didn't answer. I just stared at the trailer as the porch light winked off for good. The wind picked up, and the cradle swing out front began to move, slowly, rhythmically, though no one was there. I got back in the cruiser and left without looking back. Later, engineers declared the structure unsalvageable. They tore it down at dawn. But I can't shake the memory of seeing that shape in the hallway, or the sound of the place drawing breath as though it were alive. They say carbon monoxide is odorless, invisible, a silent killer. Maybe what I saw was just my mind breaking under its influence. But sometimes, when the night is still and the wind dies down, I swear I can hear that trailer breathing somewhere out beyond the county line. I slid out of the cruiser before Ramos could kill the engine, my boots crunching on the gravel drive. The moon was low, a silver scythe cutting across the sky, and the carcasses of burned-out trailers huddled like specters at the edge of the park. The only sound was the wind rattling the eaves of the condemned unit, Unit 42, where I'd glimpsed that impossible shape. My flashlight beam trembled as I crossed the yard. The smell was different now, sweetly metallic, like old pennies mixed with rot. I paused at the porch, hand on the cracked doorframe, and let my breath fog in the chill air. The door swung inward on rusted hinges with a long, tortured creak. Inside, the hallway stretched away in darkness. My light caught the warped floorboards, the stained wallpaper curling at the seams, and the words scrawled in dust, "Stay out." Only now, the letters were smeared, one stroke trailing down as if something had clawed its way free. I whispered into my radio. 27 to base, environment's unstable. I'm going back in. Static hissed for a moment before Ramos's voice. Be careful. Hazmat's clear for CO, but trust your gut. My gut told me I was too late. I stepped into the living room. The overturned recliner lay where I'd left it, but the broken toys were gone. No fire truck, no doll. In their place, a single child sneaker, clean and white, sat perfectly centered on the threadbare carpet. The beam of my flashlight jumped when I saw it, the laces tied in a neat bow. I swallowed hard. This isn't right. I followed the hallway toward the back bedroom. The air grew colder with every step, my breath coming in short clouds. At the threshold, I saw Cassie's oxygen tank, half buried under a twisted blanket. The hose lay in a coil, like a snake waiting to strike. Then I heard it, a soft scraping, like nails on wood, coming from the crawlspace door under the floorboards. I dropped to one knee, pried the panel loose, and peered into the black void. The meter on my belt ticked once, then leapt. Carbon monoxide should have dissipated days ago. I reached in to grab the hose of my portable gas meter. A hand shot out and clamped on my wrist, ice-cold fingers squeezing bone. I yelped, scrambling back. My light swung up to reveal a figure half emerged from the darkness. Cassie's pale face, eyes black pits, hair plastered to her cheeks. Her lips stretched in a grin that wasn't human. "Help. Me," she whispered, voice layered with static, like the baby monitor's last breath. I twisted free and fell backward. The thing scuttled out, a malformed shadow of a girl, ribs visible under her skin, the oxygen tube trailing like a tether to nowhere. She moved with jerky, inhuman motions. I fumbled for my taser. "Stay back!" I shouted. She tilted her head, cocking an ear. Then she laughed, a hollow, gurgling sound that echoed through the trailer like a cracked record. The walls vibrated. The floorboards groaned underfoot, as if the entire structure were alive and feeding on fear. My radio crackled. 27? You there?" Ramos's voice, distant. I grabbed the handheld mic. "Get Hazmat back, now. Something's alive in here." Behind me, the corridor stretched impossibly long, the far wall receding into darkness. The doll's sneaker lay in the middle, then slid toward me, as if pulled by an unseen force. My heart hammered. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I backed toward the door. The trailer groaned, the ceiling flexing like lungs inhaling. A low rumble filled the room, mechanical and organic at once. I stumbled out into the night, slamming the door. The porch light flickered off. I didn't look back as I sprinted to the cruiser. Ramos met me halfway, eyes wide. "What the hell?" I pointed. The door was closed solid, no gaps, no light inside. Yet from within came a soft, rhythmic creak, like wood bending under weight. Then a sound like breathing, slow, deliberate, alive. He didn't wait. We peeled out onto the gravel, tires kicking up dust that glowed in the headlight beam. As we crossed the lot, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The trailer's porch bulb blinked on, once, then off. At the cruiser door, I fumbled for my flashlight and shone it back. The sneaker was on the roof of the trailer now, laces untied, the toe pointing toward us, as if marking our departure. Ramos shook his head. "I don't like it. Let's call it in." I keyed the mic, voice tight. "Unit 27 to dispatch. Evacuate the park. Condition unknown. Structure is hostile. Keep everyone clear." He hit the siren lights. Blue and red splashed over the sagging rigs. Somewhere, a child's laughter echoed, far too close, yet unmistakably distant. As we drove away, the wind carried a faint rattle, like a mobile spinning in a nursery. I pressed my forehead to the glass. The park disappeared behind a curtain of dust. But I know it's still there. Watching. Breathing. Waiting. The moment the cruiser's tires bit into pavement, I realized I'd left my flashlight on the roof. Ramos killed the lights and we coasted to a stop against the wind-whipped trees. In the rearview mirror, I could still see the trailer park's outline, dark shapes huddled under the moon. I swallowed. "Go back?" he asked. His voice was low. I shook my head. Not yet. We rolled forward a half-mile, then cut the engine. The county road stretched away, flanked by cornfields that whispered in the breeze. I opened my door and stepped into the night. Ramos followed. "Hazmat's on its way," he said, "but they won't move until we secure the scene." I nodded, eyes fixed on the park. The gravel drive gleamed pale under the moon. My stomach churned. "Something about that place," I began, then trailed off. He knew, we both did. I jogged back to the lot, every footstep echoing in the stillness. The air was colder here, bone-deep cold that seeped through my uniform. I flicked my flashlight against the nearest trailer. The beam landed on peeling paint and broken glass, then caught the sneaker perched on the roof of Unit 42. The laces were undone now, draped over the edge as though the shoe had crawled up itself. My throat tightened. I climbed onto the bumper and reached up, but the moment my fingers brushed the rubber sole, the light behind me snapped on. Ramos stood at the edge of the beam, shotgun slung. "What are you doing?" I held up the sneaker. "Evidence." He holstered his weapon. "Or bait." I dropped the shoe. It hit the gravel with a hollow thunk. "Let's clear the rest," I said. We moved through the park in pairs, 2 deputies at a time, sweeping every trailer marked condemned. Each one was empty, silent, lifeless. No flicker of movement, no stray sound beyond the wind. Yet every time I passed Unit 42, I felt a prickling at the base of my skull, as if someone was watching from inside. About 30 minutes later, Hazmat arrived in their yellow suits, gas meters and detection gear in tow. The lead tech, Morgan, clipped a meter to his belt and motioned us back. "CO levels are off the charts," he said through his mask. "Still spiking." "Spiking?" I echoed. He nodded. "Even with the trailer sealed, there's pressure building inside. Could be pockets of gas trapped in the walls." Ramos frowned. "So it's still dangerous." Morgan's meter clicked. "Dangerous and unstable. We're going to ventilate, but structural integrity's compromised. I'd pull it down." I glanced at the sagging porch, the warped roof. Better safe than sorry. They set to work opening windows, cutting holes in the roof. Fresh air rushed in, carrying the taste of rust and mold. The meter sputtered, then dipped, then rose again. I stepped back. The trailer shuddered as though shivering. A panel of siding rattled loose and clattered to the ground. I jumped. Morgan shouted something I couldn't hear, then waved us over. He pointed at the meter's readout. It was climbing, fast. "Explosive range," he said. My heart hammered. Explosive? He tapped the display. Gas buildup plus a spark. This thing could blow. Ramos's eyes went to the trailer. We need to evac, now. I radioed dispatch. All units, clear the perimeter. Blast radius could be up to 50 feet. Red and blue strobes swept across the park as deputies ushered any onlookers to their cars. Boone's silhouette appeared at his porch across the lot, and someone guided him away. He looked back once, faced Pyle. The hazmat team backed off. Morgan held up a remote detonator, essentially a long pole that would trigger a spark away from the structure. "Stand clear," he ordered. We retreated behind our cruisers. I swallowed and gripped the metal hood for support. The night was silent, waiting. A single spark, and the trailer erupted. The blast wave rolled outward in a thunderous roar, bending the air. Gravel flew. I slammed into the cruiser's door, ears ringing. Flames shot skyward as wood and aluminum peeled back. The roof collapsed in on itself, and a fireball blossomed inside. I coughed. The acrid stench of burning plastic and insulation filled my lungs. Behind me, Ramos shouted, but I couldn't make out the words. The ground trembled. When the roar subsided, all that remained was a smoldering husk. Orange embers drifted upward like dying fireflies. The wind carried the last echoes of the blast across the fields. Morgan approached, soot on his suit. "It's done," he said. I nodded numbly. The meter was flatlining, safe now. But the air still felt heavy, charged. I closed my eyes and saw Cassie's face, those hollow eyes, that broken grin. Ramos touched my shoulder. "You okay?" I forced a laugh. "Yeah, just one hell of a night." He gave me a sideways look. "You ever see anything like that?" I shook my head. "Not in 12 years." Silence settled between us. The trailer park lay ruined, but I knew whatever had lived inside wasn't gone. Gas leaks could be fixed, structures rebuilt. But something born of fear and poison, something that fed on carbon monoxide and doubt, that lingered. As the fire crews moved in to drown the embers, I looked up at the moon. It was half hidden by clouds, pale and distant. I thought I heard a soft creak behind me, like a floorboard underfoot. I spun, flashlight raised, but saw only scorched earth and twisted metal. A faint breeze stirred. In its wake, I caught a whisper so soft I almost missed it. "Stay with me." I froze. The words faded into the crackle of the fire. Was it the wind, my mind playing tricks, or something else reaching out from the ashes? Ramos nudged me. "Come on, let's get out of here." I hesitated, then followed. My boots crunched on the gravel drive as we walked away. The fire crew's lights painted long shadows on the trees. I climbed into the cruiser and closed the door. The engine roared to life. As we pulled away, I glanced back one last time. The smoldering trailer looked like a dark wound in the earth, still oozing smoke. Then I saw it. A shape at the shattered window frame. Just for a moment, slender and pale, before dissolving into the night. I swallowed hard. "Did you see that?" I whispered. Ramos followed my gaze, eyes narrowing. I did. Behind us, the park lay silent, but I knew better. Something had been unleashed, something that thrived on isolation, on fear, on the slow poison of carbon monoxide. And it was still out there, waiting for the next call. The road out of Willow Creek Trailer Park was empty, except for the wail of distant sirens and the glow of emergency lights fading behind us. Ramos kept glancing in the rearview mirror, as if the park itself might chase us down the highway. I sat stiffly, heart still hammering from the blast, my uniform singed and stiff with soot. Think we got it all? He asked, voice low. I swallowed against the lump in my throat. We leveled the trailer. Hazmat says the gas is gone, but I trailed off. The memory of that shape at the window still burned in my mind. He nodded, understanding. That thing, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't Cassie. Silence settled between us, thick as the smoke we'd left behind. The cruiser's engine thrummed beneath us. Somewhere up ahead, the world carried on oblivious. Late-night diners, distant headlights, crickets in the fields. But back at the park, something had changed. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the child's sneaker, the one I'd plucked from the roof before tossing it down. It looked incongruous in my hand, pristine white against the grime of the night. I turned it over. No name, no scuff, just a single streak of soot across the toe. "What are you doing?" Ramos asked. "Evidence," I said, though I wasn't sure what crime it represented. A shoe that walked itself up onto a roof. A shape that fed on carbon monoxide, or the memory of a girl lost in the dark. He sighed. "We'll bag it at the station." I nodded, slipping the sneaker into an evidence bag. The plastic crackled. I hesitated, then sealed it. It felt like locking away a part of the nightmare, though I knew nightmares had a way of slipping free. At dawn, I sat behind my desk in the sheriff's substation. The park report spread out before me. Photos of the blast, hazmat readings, witness statements from Boone and the deputies. Every detail pointed to a tragic accident, a lethal CO leak, a terrified teenager, a necessary demolition. But beneath the official narrative lay the things no report could capture. The soft rasp of breathing in an empty hallway, the sneaker's impossible journey, the shape at the window. I tapped my pen on the form. How do you document the living dead? The way a place can inhale your fear and exhale something else. Ramos knocked and slid in, steaming coffee cups in hand. He placed one before me. "You need this." I took a sip. Bitter, black. I closed my eyes. "Filed your report?" he asked, almost. I pointed to the final line. "Cause of structural failure, detonated due to explosive gas buildup. Injuries, smoke inhalation, trauma, no fatalities." He frowned. "No mention of visitor?" I shook my head. "Can't put that in writing." He leaned back. "You ever think about going home, take a few days off?" I studied the file. The county expected normalcy. Another call, another shift, another paperwork stack. But normal felt impossible now. "Maybe," I said. That evening, I found myself driving back past the park on my way home, against protocol, against my better judgment. The lot was quiet. Empty trailers standing sentinel in the dusk. A single porch bulb flickered on Unit 43, 2 doors down. A neighbor's rig that hadn't housed anyone in years. I paused. "Why are you here?" Ramos's voice startled me. He'd climbed into the passenger seat without my noticing. I didn't answer, my gaze locked on the bulb. It winked off. He followed my eyes. "Get out of here." I shook my head. One more look. We climbed out. The gravel crunched under our boots. The air was still, heavy with the scent of char and damp earth. I approached the trailer, flashlight in hand. Ramos stayed by the cruiser, hand on his holster. I stepped onto the porch. The door was closed, sealed months ago. I tapped. It echoed hollowly. I pressed my ear to the wood. Nothing. Then faintly, a creak from inside. I drew breath. "Hello?" I called softly. Silence. I raised my flashlight and backed away. The porch bulb snapped on, bright, sudden, casting long shadows across the lot. My heart seized. I looked up at the window, a face pressed against the glass. Pale, gaunt, eyes deep as wells, mouth opening in a silent scream. I stumbled back. Ramos rushed up. "What is it?" I pointed. The face vanished, replaced by my own reflection in the dirty glass. The bulb winked off. Ramos grabbed my arm. "You seeing things?" I shook my head, voice tight. "Number, I'm sure of it." He guided me back to the cruiser. "Let's go home." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, uniform still on the chair, the evidence bag on the floor. The sneaker's white toe peeked out. I stared at it. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Want to play?" My hand shook. I checked the sender. It was Boone's number, the neighbor. I tapped reply. "What do you mean?" No answer. Another buzz. "She's lonely." My blood ran cold. I grabbed the badge on my nightstand. The metal felt warm. I thought of Cassie, of the trailer breathing, of the shape that wasn't human. I typed one more message. "Stop." Silence. Then, outside my window, I heard it, soft, deliberate, like wood flexing in the dark. A sigh, close enough to feel on my skin. I froze. The house was still. Then a scrape, as if something dragged across the siding. I reached for my flashlight and turned it on. The beam cut across the yard, empty. No swing moving, no shape lingering. Just the oak tree's branches casting skeletal shadows. I exhaled. "Get a grip," I whispered. A final text arrived. "Or I'll come find you." My flashlight flickered. I looked toward the door. The dark hallway stretched away, and I felt that same tickle at my temples. The trailer park chill in my own home. I backed away. The beam landed on the hallway mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes wide. Behind me, a shape coalesced in the glass. Slender, pale, grinning. I didn't wait. I ran. The next morning, the substation found my cruiser abandoned in the lot, engine running, lights on. The door was open. The evidence bag lay on the floorboard. The sneaker gone. No sign of me. Dispatch still shows Unit 27 on duty, status missing. But I'm out here, somewhere beyond the county line, listening for the next call, and waiting to see who answers. Something moved just beyond the edge of the trees where the headlights' glow faded into black. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs. The gravel road stretched ahead, empty, silent. Yet I felt eyes on me, watching from the shadows. My boots crunched as I took a step forward, flashlight trembling in my hand. The beam caught the tail end of a rusted swing, set half buried in weeds. The chains were still, but I could almost hear the faint creak of metal, as if pushed by invisible hands. "Hello?" I called, voice rough. It echoed and died. No answer, only the soft sigh of the wind through the cornstalks. I swallowed and squared my shoulders. Something about that night at Willow Creek Trailer Park had changed me. The official report said the trailer imploded from a gas explosion, that the girl was rescued, that the park was cleared. But I knew better. I'd seen the shape. I'd heard the breathing. I'd felt the thing reach for me. I took another step, and the air shifted, grew colder, heavier. The hair on my neck rose. I swept the flashlight across the field's edge. There, a flash of white, like, "Need this." I took a sip. Bitter, black. I closed my eyes. "Filed your report?" he asked, almost. I pointed to the final line. "Cause of structural failure, detonated due to explosive gas buildup. Injuries, smoke inhalation, trauma, no fatalities." He frowned. "No mention of visitor?" I shook my head. "Can't put that in writing." He leaned back. "You ever think about going home, take a few days off?" I studied the file. The county expected normalcy. Another call, another shift, another paperwork stack. But normal felt impossible now. "Maybe," I said. That evening, I found myself driving back past the park on my way home, against protocol. against my better judgment. The lot was quiet. Empty trailers standing sentinel in the dusk. A single porch bulb flickered on Unit 43, 2 doors down. A neighbor's rig that hadn't housed anyone in years. I paused. "Why are you here?" Ramos's voice startled me. He'd climbed into the passenger seat without my noticing. I didn't answer, my gaze locked on the bulb. It winked off. He followed my eyes. "Get out of here." I shook my head. One more look. We climbed out. The gravel crunched under our boots. The air was still, heavy with the scent of char and damp earth. I approached the trailer, flashlight in hand. Ramos stayed by the cruiser, hand on his holster. I stepped onto the porch. The door was closed, sealed months ago. I tapped. It echoed hollowly. I pressed my ear to the wood. Nothing. Then faintly, a creak from inside. I drew breath. "Hello?" I called softly. Silence. I raised my flashlight and backed away. The porch bulb snapped on, bright, sudden, casting long shadows across the lot. My heart seized. I looked up at the window, a face pressed against the glass. Pale, gaunt, eyes deep as wells, mouth opening in a silent scream. I stumbled back. Ramos rushed up. "What is it?" I pointed. The face vanished, replaced by my own reflection in the dirty glass. The bulb winked off. Ramos grabbed my arm. "You seeing things?" I shook my head, voice tight. "Number, I'm sure of it." He guided me back to the cruiser. "Let's go home." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, uniform still on the chair, the evidence bag on the floor. The sneaker's white toe peeked out. I stared at it. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Want to play?" My hand shook. I checked the sender. It was Boone's number, the neighbor. I tapped reply. "What do you mean?" No answer. Another buzz. "She's lonely." My blood ran cold. I grabbed the badge on my nightstand. The metal felt warm. I thought of Cassie, of the trailer breathing, of the shape that wasn't human. I typed one more message. "Stop." Silence. Then, outside my window, I heard it, soft, deliberate, like wood flexing in the dark. A sigh, close enough to feel on my skin. I froze. The house was still. Then a scrape, as if something dragged across the siding. I reached for my flashlight and turned it on. The beam cut across the yard, empty. No swing moving, no shape lingering. Just the oak tree's branches casting skeletal shadows. I exhaled. "Get a grip," I whispered. A final text arrived. "Or I'll come find you." My flashlight flickered. I looked toward the door. The dark hallway stretched away, and I felt that same tickle at my temples. The trailer park chill, in my own home. I backed away. The beam landed on the hallway mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes wide. Behind me, a shape coalesced in the glass. Slender, pale, grinning. I didn't wait. I ran. The next morning, the substation found my cruiser abandoned in the lot, engine running, lights on. The door was open. The evidence bag lay on the floorboard. The sneaker gone. No sign of me. Dispatch still shows Unit 27 on duty, status missing. But I'm out here, somewhere beyond the county line, listening for the next call, and waiting to see who answers. Something moved just beyond the edge of the trees where the headlights' glow faded into black. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs. The gravel road stretched ahead, empty, silent. Yet I felt eyes on me, watching from the shadows. My boots crunched as I took a step forward, flashlight trembling in my hand. The beam caught the tail end of a rusted swing, set half buried in weeds. The chains were still, but I could almost hear the faint creak of metal, as if pushed by invisible hands. "Hello?" I called, voice rough. It echoed and died. No answer. only the soft sigh of the wind through the cornstalks. I swallowed and squared my shoulders. Something about that night at Willow Creek Trailer Park had changed me. The official report said the trailer imploded from a gas explosion, that the girl was rescued, that the park was cleared. But I knew better. I'd seen the shape. I'd heard the breathing. I'd felt the thing reach for me. I took another step, and the air shifted, grew colder, heavier. The hair on my neck rose. I swept the flashlight across the field's edge. There, a flash of white, like the sneaker's soul, slipping behind a tree. I aimed the beam. The tree's bark was scarred, deep grooves gouged in jagged patterns. I knelt, inspected the cuts. They weren't there before. Fresh, splintered wood, claw marks. A soft whisper rippled through the leaves. "Stay." I jerked upright. The voice was faint, mournful, as if carried on a sigh. It came again, clearer. "Stay with me." My mouth went dry. I should have run. Every instinct screamed to jump in the cruiser and floor it back to town. But something held me. A mix of duty and curiosity. The same urge that had driven me back into that trailer. "Who's there?" I called. Silence, then a soft giggle, childlike, hollow. I fumbled for my radio. "Unit 27 to dispatch, I'm..." Static. The channel was dead. I cursed. The world beyond this road felt cut off, sealed in darkness. My flashlight beam darted around. Nothing but cornrows and the skeletal swing set. Then I saw her. At the far end of the field, where the cornstalks gave way to scrub, stood a figure. Small, pale, motionless. A girl, wearing a t-shirt and jeans, hair plastered to her face. She held something in her hand, the other sneaker. My breath caught. "Cassie?" I whispered. She lifted her head. In the beam, I saw her eyes, black hollows, empty. She tilted her head, studying me. The corners of her mouth curved upward in a slow, broken smile. I stepped forward. "You're safe now." She raised the sneaker and tossed it toward me. It spun end over end, laces trailing like ribbons, and landed at my feet, perfectly clean. I crouched and picked it up. The lining was warm, as if just worn. I glanced back at the girl. She took a step closer, then stopped. The ground where she stood was scorched, like the grass had been burned away. My skin prickled. "Why are you here?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned and began to walk, slowly, toward the trailer park. I followed, heart thudding. The road beneath my boots felt unreal, like walking on a dream surface. As we neared the park entrance, the broken sign loomed overhead. Willow Creek Trailer Park. The letters were rusted. Half the sign dangled by a single chain. The place looked abandoned, except for the figure's footprints, fresh in the gravel. She paused at Unit 42's ruins. The shell of the trailer lay collapsed, smoldering embers long since cooled. She stepped into the wreckage, and I hesitated at the threshold. Then I heard it. A soft, labored breath from inside the ruins. Not the wind, something alive. The girl vanished into the debris. I swallowed and followed. The interior was a tangle of splintered wood and twisted metal. My flashlight beam danced across charred walls. In the center lay the oxygen tank, half buried, regulator cracked, hose severed. And next to it, in the ash, fresh footprints leading deeper into the wreck. Small footprints. I knelt and traced one with my finger. The sole pattern matched the sneaker in my hand. My pulse spiked. A low creak echoed. I spun. The girl stood at the edge of the pile, eyes glinting. She held out her hand, palm up. In it was a single blackened key. I frowned. "What is that?" she whispered, voice distant. "Unlock." I glanced at the tank, the twisted metal, the key. It made no sense, but the air thrummed with expectancy. as if the park itself leaned in. I stood and took the key. The moment I touched it, the ground shuddered. A distant rumble, like the trailer breathing again. The wind swept through the lot, carrying a chorus of whispers. "Stay! Stay with me!" My radio crackled to life. "Unit 27, where are you? Respond." Ramos's voice frantic. I glanced up. The park gates were open and headlights spilled into the lot. I looked back at the girl. Her smile widened. She turned and began to walk away, toward the cornstalks. I hesitated, then chased after her, slipping the key into my pocket. The cornfield swallowed her silhouette. I reached the edge and paused, heart pounding. The stalks rustled, though there was no breeze. "Cassie?" I called into the green tunnel. A single echo drifted back. "Stay with me." My skin crawled. I took a step in, then another. The path curved inward, drawing me away from the park, away from safety. The sky above darkened, the moon hidden behind roiling clouds. Behind me, the gravel road lay empty. Police lights fading, Ramos's figure disappearing in the cruiser's glow. Ahead, the corn corridor stretched into infinite black. I fumbled for the key and held it up. It gleamed faintly, as if powered by some inner light. The whispers grew louder, urgent. "Unlock! Stay! Free us!" My breath froze. The exit vanished. The stalks closed ranks, leaving only darkness beyond. And then I understood. The trailer wasn't the only thing trapped. Something else lay buried here, beneath the fields, beneath the gravel, beneath the memories. The key felt heavy in my hand, a promise and a threat. I glanced back one last time. The park gates were gone, the lot an empty field under the moon. No evidence of trailers, no scorch marks, nothing but corn and shadow. A whisper directly behind me. "Use it." I turned. The girl stood close, too close, eyes shining with that hollow light. She held out her hand, felt the world tilt beneath me. The key burned hot in my palm as the cornstalks pressed in, whispering in 1,000 voices. I swallowed against the fear rising in my throat and stepped forward, toward the girl's outstretched hand. Her eyes glowed with something ancient. Hunger, longing, sorrow. "Unlock," she breathed, and the key pulsed like a heartbeat. I raised my free hand and brushed a strand of hair from her face. Her skin was ice cold, yet softer than silk. The cornfield around us fell silent, as if holding its breath. I looked down at the key. It had to fit something, some lock hidden in this place. I glanced back. The trailer park was gone, replaced by endless rows of corn. And ahead, the field ended at a low stone wall I hadn't noticed before, half buried in soil. Carved into the stones was a rusted iron door, its hinges entwined with roots. A keyhole gaped at waist height. The girl nodded, tilting her head toward the door. My heart thundered. I approached, every step echoing on the packed earth. The whispers rose again. "Open, free us, stay." I slipped the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. I hesitated only a moment, long enough to feel the weight of every decision I'd made. Returning to the park, following the sneaker, chasing a ghost. Then I turned it. The lock clicked. The door swung inward on silent hinges, revealing a narrow stairway descending into darkness. A rush of cold air spilled out, carrying the scent of damp stone and something else, something metallic and old. Behind me, the girl vanished into shadow. I stepped through the doorway, flashlight leading the way. The stairs curved it down, each step slick with moss. At the bottom lay a vaulted chamber, its walls lined with rusted pipes and broken valves, the hidden underbelly of Willow Creek, a buried network that once pumped water and heat to every trailer. Now it lay abandoned, a tomb. My beam caught movement, shapes huddled in the corners, dozens of sneakers, identical to the one in my pocket, arranged in neat rows. Beyond them, silhouettes. Children's jackets, toys, scraps of clothing, relics of lives lost or stolen. My stomach clenched. A soft voice echoed, "They stayed." I spun. The girl stood on a raised platform at the chamber's center, surrounded by flickering lanterns that hadn't been there a moment ago. The light revealed faces, translucent, hollow-eyed, drifting just beyond the sneakers. Ghostly figures of children, reaching out with silent pleas. My breath hitched. I realized the key hadn't been meant to free me. It had unlocked their prison. The girl lifted a hand. The spirits drifted toward her, merging into her form until she glowed with their sorrow. She turned to me, eyes shining with tears I couldn't tell were real or spectral. "Stay with us," she whispered. "Keep us company." Cold tendrils snaked around my ankles. I tried to step back, but the ground felt sticky, as if the chamber itself clung to me. The lanterns flickered, and the walls seemed to pulse. I raised my voice. "You're free. Go." The girl's smile faltered. The spirits paused, hovering between release and longing. The whispers crescendoed. "Stay, don't leave us." My heart wrenched. I wanted to help them, to give them peace, but I also wanted to live. I looked at the stairway, my only exit, and then at the circle of lantern light. "Go," I repeated, voice firm. "Find your rest." The lanterns guttered. The girl's form blurred. The sneakers slid across the floor toward the stairway, as if propelled by unseen hands. One by one, the ghostly jackets and toys drifted upward, vanishing into the dark arch above. The girl's shape dissolved into a swirl of motes, then was gone. The chamber fell silent. The only sound was my own ragged breathing. I stumbled up the stairs and out into the moonlit field. The iron door closed itself behind me with a soft click. The cornstalks rustled in a gentle breeze, and in the distance I saw the first hint of dawn. My boots were wet with dew and something darker. I wiped them on the grass. The sneaker lay beside the door, laces tied in a neat bow once more. I picked it up and tucked it into my pocket. Above me, the sky brightened. The trailer park remained a memory, swallowed by corn and shadow. I turned toward home, each step lighter than the last. The air felt normal again, yet I knew what lay beneath. When I reached my cruiser, Ramos was waiting, eyes bleary. He offered me coffee. I took it, hands still trembling. "You found something down there," he said softly. I nodded, pulling the sneaker from my pocket. "We set them free." He frowned. "Them?" I tapped the sneaker. "They never left. They were waiting." Ramos glanced at the field, now golden in the sunrise. "You want to file another report?" I shook my head. "Some things belong in the dark." He sighed and closed the cruiser door. As we drove away, the iron door vanished. No trace in the wall of corn. Only the echo of children's laughter on the breeze. I slipped the sneaker onto the dash. It rested there as we rolled down the highway, silent, empty, a reminder of the ones who stayed behind. Behind us, Willow Creek Trailer Park lay hidden once more. But I carry its secret with me. In the quiet moments, I still hear the soft breathing of that place, and the faint echo of little voices calling, "Stay with us." The cruiser's headlights carved twin shafts of light through the dawn mist as Ramos and I drove in silence. My mind replayed the chamber beneath the corn, those rows of tiny sneakers, the lantern-lit ghosts, the girl's hollow plea. I fingered the sneaker on the dash, its white surface now dulled by dew and earth, and wondered how you log something that lives between life and death. We passed mile markers and farm gates, the world waking around us. A rooster crowed, a milk truck rumbled by, and somewhere a church bell tolled the hour. Normal, mundane. Yet I felt unmoored, as if the ground I traveled no longer lay on any map. "Dispatch wants a follow-up statement," Ramos said, breaking the quiet. "Hazmat, fire, county engineers, they all filed their parts. They want your take." I nodded, eyes on the road. "I'll say structural collapse due to gas explosion. That's the truth they can handle." He glanced at me. "And the rest?" I exhaled. "Some things you don't put in a report." He frowned, but didn't push. Instead, he reached into his vest and pulled out 2 styrofoam cups of coffee, passing one over. I accepted it, the heat seeping into my palm. I sipped, bitter, grounding. We turned off onto County Road 117, the asphalt pocked with tar patches and oil stains. The trailer park lay 3 miles back, swallowed by fields. Halfway there, Ramos flicked on the radio. "Unit 15, this is 27, situation secure." "Leaving the scene." "Copy that," came the dispatcher's clipped reply. I switched off the radio. "They'll close the file by noon." "Then what?" Ramos asked. I thought of the key, left leaning against the dash and the unseen door beneath the corn. Then we wait for the next call. That afternoon I tried normal life. I mowed the yard, pushing the old John Deere until sweat ran down my back. Kids rode their bikes past the fence, waving. I nodded. The mower's engine droned, grass clippings flew. Yet, every time I bent to empty the catcher, I half expected to see a small sneaker print in the grass. Later, I showered and changed into plain clothes. At home, the phone rang. Boone, the neighbor from the park. I answered on the porch. "Sheriff's office?" he said, voice trembling. "Deputy Michaels," I replied. He cleared his throat. I just wanted to thank you for what you did." I hesitated. "Just doing my job." He sighed. "I couldn't sleep. Heard something last night down by the creek, like children laughing." I closed my eyes. The memory of that laughter echoing in the ruins sent a chill up my spine. "Probably raccoons." I forced a laugh. "Maybe," he said, but it sounded happy. I smiled, despite myself. "Then I'm glad." He paused. "Be careful, Deputy. Some doors shouldn't be opened." I swallowed. Noted. That evening, I returned to the station to finish paperwork. The evidence room was quiet, fluorescent lights humming. I placed the sneaker in a locker, tagged, sealed, logged. The key I slipped into my pocket. No log entry required. Some evidence belongs only to the shadows. I sat at my desk and typed the narrative. Responded to 911 call. Located female juvenile suffering from CO inhalation. Transported to regional medical. Hazmat investigation revealed gas leak. Structure later demolished. No further action required. I paused at the final sentence. It was a lie by omission, but the only one that fit the report's margins. I saved and printed. Ramos peeked in. "Done?" I nodded. "Let's get dinner." At the diner on Main Street, neon buzzed over Formica tables. We slid into a booth. The waitress dropped 2 menus and a pot of coffee. I ordered a burger, Ramos a BLT. We ate in companionable silence until he cleared his throat. "You sure you don't want to revisit what happened?" I shook my head. "Not tonight. Let the ghosts rest." He studied me. "You ever think they will?" I took a bite. The ketchup tang grounded me. Maybe, or maybe they just find new fields to haunt. He nodded, as if he understood more than I said. That night, sleep was elusive. I lay in bed, ceiling fan whirring, mind drifting back to the girl's whisper, "Stay with me." I I closed my eyes and saw the lantern-lit chamber, the key turning in the lock, the sneakers marching toward freedom. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Boone's number. I stared at it, thumb hovering. Then a second text. Thank you. I exhaled. No threat this time, just gratitude. I typed back, "You're welcome." Silence followed. I pocketed the phone and lay back, the darkness pressing in. Outside, the wind rustled the oak leaves. I thought I heard a faint creak, like wood sighing. I glanced at the closet door. My uniform hung inside. The evidence bag lay on the floor. The sneaker box peeked from the top shelf. I closed my eyes. In the stillness, I almost believed it was over. But somewhere, beyond the walls, a trailer breathes. And somewhere, children's laughter drifts on the breeze. And I remain, watching, waiting, ready for the next call. The line between duty and the unknown has blurred. I don't know where it ends, and maybe that's how it's meant to be. The sunrise was just a bruise on the horizon when Ramos and I finally rolled back into the sheriff's lot. We'd been on duty nearly 18 hours straight, longer than any shift I ever volunteered for, but neither of us felt ready to stop. The county cruiser's odometer clicked over 89,000 miles as I killed the engine. My bones ached, and my mind was a tangle of cornstalks and footsteps, and that child's sneaker. Ramos stretched and let out a long breath. "You look like hell," he said. I managed a stiff nod. "Could say the same about you." We climbed out. The morning air had a brittle edge, as if the world were holding its breath after last night's explosion. The lot was empty now. No trailers left, no yellow hazmat tape, just gravel and tufts of grass pushing up through cracks. The ghosts had been exorcised, the structure leveled, the evidence bagged. Officially, the case was closed. Yet, I felt the weight of something unresolved, lodged behind my sternum. I reached into my coat pocket and drew out the lone sneaker, the one I'd bagged as evidence, then quietly retrieved before filing. Its canvas was stained with ash, the sole scuffed by gravel, but inside the toe I still felt the faint warmth of a life nearly lost. "Think Boone's neighbor will rebuild?" I asked. Ramos shook his head. "Not after what happened. He sold the lot to the county for back taxes." I pocketed the sneaker. "Good. Let it rest." We walked toward the station. The patrol log still awaited my signature, along with half a dozen follow-up memos. But I hesitated at the threshold. I glanced back at the empty field beyond the chain-link fence. The cornstalks there had already grown waist-high, whispering in the morning breeze. "Something else," I said, turning to Ramos. He raised an eyebrow. "We done?" I nodded. "One more thing." Inside the evidence room, the locker held 2 items: the white sneaker and a scrap of twisted metal, the key blackened by flame and mud. I placed the sneaker gently on the stainless steel table, then laid the key beside it. The harsh fluorescent light gleamed off the key's ridges, casting a long shadow. I tapped the sneaker. "You're free," I murmured. The key remained silent, inert. I closed my eyes and pictured the lantern-lit chamber beneath the corn, the children's ghosts drifting into nothingness. Had I really released them? Or merely opened the door for something else? The evidence locker's lock clicked. Ramos peeked in. "Need a hand?" I shook my head. "Later." I closed the locker. At noon, I filed the final report. It read like any other. Investigation complete. No hazards remain. Case closed. My supervisor signed off without comment. The paperwork vanished into the county archives, another closed file on another quiet rural call. Yet, when I stepped out, the cruiser's dash light blinked. Check engine. A minor fault, but enough to nag at me. I made a note to have maintenance look at it. The truck had carried me through that night's terror, but something about its warning light felt deliberate. Ramos climbed in. "Lunch?" he offered. I shook my head. "I need to see something first." We drove back past Willow Creek's old entrance. The gate pillars still stood, half sunken and vine-clad, but the sign was gone, ripped away when the county cleared the lot. Beyond, the cornfield rippled under the midday sun. I parked on the shoulder. Ramos stepped out, scanning the horizon. "You sure about this?" I retrieved the sneaker from my pocket and held it out. "I want to know if it stays." He frowned, but took the shoe. It felt heavier in his hand than I remembered. We walked to the edge of the corn, the stalks pressed close, each leaf brushing our sleeves. I felt the same chill I'd felt before, an absence of life, an echo of breath. I placed the sneaker on the ground where the asphalt met the field. Then I stepped back. Ramos raised an eyebrow. I said, "Watch." I turned and walked a few paces away, then looked back. The sneaker lay undisturbed, but the ground around it had shifted. A small indentation like a footstep pressed into the soil beside it. The laces were now tied in a perfect bow. Ramos crouched. "That's fresh." I swallowed. "They're still here." He stood, voice low. "Let's get out of the corn, man." I hesitated, torn between duty and dread. Then I heard it. A soft shuffle, as if something moved just beyond the first row. A whisper. Almost a child's laugh, distant but unmistakable. Ramos and I exchanged a look. He holstered his hand reluctantly. "After you." I stepped into the stalks. The field swallowed us. The sunlight dimmed under the canopy of leaves. The air grew cool. I kept my hand on the key in my pocket, my only talisman in this buried world. We followed a faint path, barely worn, that led deeper. The whisper came again. "Stay!" My pulse thundered. I pressed on until the path ended at the rusted iron door I'd unlocked days before. The keyhole stared at me like a blank eye. I touched the key's chain through my pocket. Ramos cleared his throat. "You sure you want to do this?" I swallowed. "We can't leave it open." He nodded. "Say the word." I drew the key and turned it, locking the door this time. The click echoed like a gunshot. The door swung inward and then shut itself with finality. The field shuddered. The whispers fell silent. I exhaled. "That's better." Ramos placed a hand on my shoulder. "Let's go home." That evening, I slept for the first time in days. My dreams were quiet. No breathing walls, no black-eyed girl, no endless rows of sneakers. Just darkness and sleep. I woke before my alarm, disoriented, as if stepping out of someone else's life. On the nightstand lay the key and the sneaker, side by side. I picked up the sneaker, still scuffed, still faintly warm. I slid it into a baggie and locked it in my closet. Then, I placed the key in my glove compartment, a reminder that some doors must stay closed, but you never know when you might need to lock them again. 2 nights later, the phone rang at 2:17 a.m. I answered on the first ring. "Deputy Michaels?" I said. Silence. Then a soft, childlike voice. "Thank you." My blood ran cold. "Who is this?" No answer, only the sound of breathing. Not my breath, but the slow inhale of empty space. I whispered, "Stay with me." Click. The line went dead. I sat in the darkness, phone trembling in my hand. The house was silent, but I felt the walls breathing. The same slow pulse I'd heard in that trailer, in the iron chamber in the cornstalks. I rose and moved to the window. The night was still, the moon a pale sliver. I scanned the yard. Nothing moved, yet I knew better. Something watched from the shadows, waiting. I closed the curtains. The next morning, Ramos found me nursing coffee in the break room. He slid into the seat opposite. "You look like hell again." I managed a small smile. "Could say the same about you." He studied me. "You still hearing things?" I nodded. "Last night, a call, a voice." He sighed. "Welcome back to the club." I drained the cup. "We did what we had to do." He tapped the dashboard of his cruiser. "The key's locked, the trailer's rubble, the park's gone, but some things don't stay buried." I nodded. "I know." Ramos stood. "Want backup on the next 911? I shrugged. "Wouldn't mind the company." He grinned. "Let's get to it then." That afternoon, the dispatcher routed us to a new call. An abandoned farmhouse on County Road 129. Reports of strange lights, someone seen in the windows. The farmer's wife said she heard singing at night. I glanced at Ramos. He raised an eyebrow. "Trailer park redux?" I checked my glove compartment. Felt the cold metal of the key. I left it there. "Let's roll," I said. We climbed into the cruiser and headed out. Behind us, the sheriff's lot grew smaller in the mirror. Ahead lay another stretch of lonely road, fields that whispered secrets in the wind, and the promise of the next unknown. Because once you answer one call, the next is never far behind, and sometimes the shadows on the other end of the line are waiting for you. Who will you be when they pick up?